Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 39. I am your host Mo, and I'm joined again by my rested and recuperated friends, Jody.
Hello, everybody.
And Willie.
Good evening.
Thanks, Joe.
I don't know where that came from. That was I did not plan that.
It sounds like some ways down your esophagus.
It's the microphone settings. They're all off.
Oh man, guys, we made it. After a couple of interesting weeks leading up to this recording, I feel like we've been circling the end of The Shadow Rising for some time now, but here we are at the finale for what I guess is season 4 of our show. The last episode for The Shadow Rising, and boy howdy, what a climax.
A few things happen in these chapters.
Yeah.
It's like one or two.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Oh, well, 2 things happen.
Yeah.
Just two.
Just
Only
2.
2 things.
2 conclusions get drawn.
Since this is a final episode for one of the books, again, where there is a slight change in the format, not huge, but I'll just run through it quickly. We'll obviously do our chapter summaries as usual. We'll still pick our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. Jody, start thinking about yours now.
My what, sorry?
And your favorite moment, remember those?
I do.
Then what we'll do again is we'll talk about the book as a whole. And then after we've done that, we'll pick our favorite moment from the entire book. And then we will start preparing for the next book, because this train is not slowing down anytime soon.
Oh,
Well,
really?
the train is
5 weeks later.
Yeah, really slowly out of the station. I must say, it's.
I meant in the grander scheme of things.
First.
All right. No. I was just thinking as well about people that are listening to this podcast like years later, like, what break? What are you guys talking about? I'm binging all of this. But seriously, it's for the people that are following us like live. It's been, 5 weeks since our last recording?
5 weeks, yeah, because our previous episode, we also recorded a week earlier than usual. And then we skipped one episode, which is, instead of just 4, it made it 5 weeks until now. Which just means that my energy levels are up. I am ready to go. I've been tweeting about it. I've been talking to you guys about it. I've been psyched to record this episode for a little while now. And I mean, the exciting subject matter makes that even more exciting. But before we get to all that wonderful excitement, let's delve into a world of pedantry and corrections in a little section I like to call Callbacks. In the last episode, I made a complete meal of the name The 13th Depository, which we're joking about the 13th suppository, but it is absolutely the 13th Depository. And for anyone that's listened to the show thus far, we've quoted it a couple of times. I don't know if I have been crediting that site as often as I should, but I'm doing that now. And I'm also putting a link to the blog in the episode description. A lot of really great in-depth analysis and stuff on there, which is invaluable to anyone that's trying to, as we are, pry every bit of joy out of these texts. Then Joe, you asked if Seta was very powerful. We were talking about the Suldam, and I think when I looked around, I know that when I looked around online, there doesn't seem to be any kind of direct reference to her power levels. But what I do think is that you may have been thinking of Olivia, who is a Damane, who is extremely powerful. She's more powerful than Nynaeve. She is the most powerful female channeler, I think, in the series.
Oh, right. That is the one. Olivia with an A, right?
Yes.
Not like Newton John.
Not Olivia,
No,
Olivia. She's the most powerful female channeler in the Third Age. She is also 400 years old when you meet her. And despite being a Damane for that long a time, she quickly turns on the Suldam. Like, her spirit was never actually broken. And she very quickly turns against the Sean Chan, her former captors, which is just... Phew. Thank God for that.
Well, maybe after 400 years, she's just like had enough. Waiting.
The effect of the Adam, maybe it's just worn off.
Yeah.
Like she's outlasted it. We also chatted about someone having, who was it that had an almost imperceptible reaction to Rand saying, "You can't fake the dragon tattoos," and it was Moiraine. When Ruach says there's no way to imitate the dragons of Rhuidean,
Mm.
Rand notices that Moiraine has a bit of a reaction to it. And I think that might be, well, I'm speculating here. What I think that could be is because maybe Moiraine knows of other people that have tattoos applied with the one power. So not specifically the dragons of Rhuidean, but
Mm.
maybe she knows already. Like, I mean, Swan, does Swan have tattoos in the books? I don't know. She does in the show. Joe, you asked, what does it mean that the sling has been used? The shepherd holds the sword, because there's no
Mm.
mention of, you know, or no obvious reference to what the sling part is. And I went
Mm.
online and I couldn't find it anywhere. I mean, a sling sort of implies the sending of something on a path, but Moraine didn't send Rand towards Calandor. Like, she was actually quite put out by the fact that he went off on his own. So I just have no idea what that could mean. And I have scoured the internet. So, listeners, if anyone knows
Mm.
what that specific part of that message, that coded message to Swan could have been about, do please let us know, because now it's going to sit there and annoy me for probably the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Thanks,
about
Joe.
it right now.
We also sort of speculated around like what Perrin's vision of Matt naked and bound with his Ashandarai and his wolf-head medallion could be, and we sort of joked around like maybe it could be, one of he and Tuon's sort of sexual escapades or something along those lines. But the 13th Depository, which I just referenced a couple of minutes ago, have a theory posted on there about the fact that it is more than likely to do with Matt's potential capture in the world of the Finns, because he is naked, so he's stripped of everything, and he's also he's bound, and because he's not wearing any clothes or anything, you could make a sort of tenuous link to the fact that maybe they are after his actual skin, and they've taken everything off him except for the things that they gave him as part of the bargain, and they sort of stick to the rules of their bargain, to the very end. So it's what they're saying is it's noteworthy that the things the Finns gave him are still with him, and we know that Matt is going to be, facing up against them in the future sometime. Joe, you look unconvinced.
I'm not buying it. That seems extremely
Okay.
convoluted. But thank you for doing the research, Morris. Much appreciated.
that's the closest thing I could find to it, or to explain like what that little scenario could be about. The other vision the Perrin had was Rand the beggar, and we've actually sort of mentioned this before. I think in book 1 or very early in the story, Min has a viewing of a beggar's staff or something with Rand, and we were even at the time going, there's some time when Rand is disguised as a beggar. It's a very short time. It's in Ibudar, in the Gathering Storm. He disguises himself as a beggar when he tries to go suss out the Sean Chan before he goes and he makes a bargain with him. So he is dressed in a cloak. He's stooped over because he doesn't want to look tall. He's carrying a staff, and he thinks to himself that he looks like a beggar.
One of those infallible disguises again. This one actually works.
But it's also just an odd thing for RJ to sort of call out twice. Min had a viewing and now Perrin, and it's such a, I don't know if it's really consequential at all, right? It's just a disguise. He used it for a short time once when sussing out the Sean Chan.
Maybe it's him referencing it, just so pointing it out that the Rand is Jesus, kind of as powerful as Jesus or something.
Or maybe, yeah, like showing him as a humbled, street level hero, not
Yeah. Every man's Jesus.
Street Jesus. What else did we have here? We sort of pontificated on how long the siege of Eamon's Field could have been, and it was 7 days of fighting. We asked, what is the name of the Fletcher in Eamon's Field? And it is Buell Dowtry.
Oh, yes, old Dowtry.
Then we also asked, speaking of the Fletcher and Perrin being able to potentially go into Tel Aranriad and come out in the flesh, why doesn't he just go and make things there and come back and sort of like bring those things that he manifests in Tel Aranriad in the real world? Because they disappear and they go away. So there is a catch-all rule for the stuff that come
bad
out of
idea to shoot
Tel'aran'rhiod.
arrows that's going to disappear and go away. It's not going to be very effective.
And to be honest, as I read it as well, it reminded me that in the Eye of the World, there's a dream that Rand has when Ishamal is chasing him through these like a hedge maze, but it's a maze of thorns.
Mm-hmm.
And he has when he wakes up, he has a thorn in his hand, and he pulls it out and he drops it to the floor. But as it hits the floor, like around that time, it also disappears.
Yeah.
So we've actually seen the reason why this can't be done earlier in the story. It's weird that our memories would fail us in such a critical moment.
Unless
we have
it's part of your body, because when it was in his hand, it was fine. But as soon as it became detached, so you'd have to carry all those arrows in his body.
About to say, fill yourself with arrows like a pincushion, much like the Fades get pincushioned, and bring them out.
Yeah.
And then what? Just like run into the enemies, because as soon as you take them out, they disappear.
Just got to run there quickly.
This isn't pedantry. This is just bordering on silliness now.
Bordering.
We crossed that border a long time ago. On the same sort of topic, we were wondering like, how does Slayer enter and exit Tel'aran'rhiod? Like, what does it look like? Because when Perrin shoots him with the arrow, he just sort of fades away. But it is never actually explained in the books or anywhere in the companion novels or anything like that. So we are not alone in wondering about that. Then we wondered, does Thomas know or know of Elias? And I looked online to see if I could sort of, because we have a vague idea of when Elias was at the tower because of his age and that sort of stuff. And I wanted to see when Varen bonded Thomas. But there is no actual date that I can find. Again, obviously, if any of our listeners, know the answer to this question, let us know. But it led me down a little path of Thomas and Varen, which is that Thomas was already a dark friend before he met Varen. And he actually wanted to convert to the light. He was a dark friend, had regrets about it, wanted to convert back to the light. And when Varen met him, she offered him the opportunity to do exactly that, but be her warder. She had a previous warder that died, and Thomas is her second warder. And she offered him this opportunity. She came clean to him saying, I'm of the Black Archer. We are both dark friends. But through helping me, I'm studying the Black Archer. You can redeem yourself and ultimately turn back to the light, which is such a cool little
I'm glad that they're both in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pedantry to the max. Here we go again. I had mentioned that Nynaeve learned the stilling weave that she tried to use on Moghedien from Elaine, but it was Egwene. As we know, Egwene was the one that stilled Amiko when they were escaping from the Stone of Tyr. But that led me down another little train of thought going, how did Nynaeve learn that from Egwene? Because Egwene does it outside the cell to Amiko, who is guarding the cell. So Nynaeve never saw it. So Egwene must have, the only logical conclusion is that Egwene would have taught her the weave after the fact, maybe off page, to say, this is how I best to do it. Check this out.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty, important piece of information to share with somebody.
Yes,
if you're ever in a tight spot, check this shit out. Yeah,
against the channeler, check how you can still them. So this is another arbitrary thing that we ummed and ahed about. When Nynaeve meets up with Elaine, Aegean, and Amathera at that little door, was it inside? Was it outside? I went and I read that section again. It's in a hall. It's in the palace. It's not even outside in a courtyard. There's a door from the palace leading directly into the street. So that's weird, but that's circumvented by the fact that Robert Jordan clearly says that it's heavily reinforced and bolted. But then Julian also just picks the lock and opens the door. I'm sure Julian's not the only lockpick in town. Speaking of Julian, there's no mention of him hitting on Amathera yet.
No.
I reread that whole section and there's no mention of it. Although, it's only a matter of time before that starts. And then Jody, you've asked, does Nynaeve break her block soon? The answer is not quite. Book 6.
All right.
In Ibudar. Wow. Yeah. There's a whole section that I've forgotten about where Nynaeve actually does capture Moghedien with an Adam. And there's time that they spend together, and then Moghedien gets away again, I assume.
Mm.
and then has an attempt on Nynaeve's life, and that's when Lan saves her. So it's still a whole other book, and then book 6 where it happens.
All right. Because I actually accidentally started reading book 6 after I finished book 4 because I couldn't. So many names, I forgot which was the next one, and I'm like, oh wow, Demandred's like in Shaiel Ghul already talking to the Dark One. I'm like, wow, that was a huge jump. And then oh no, I'm in the wrong book. So yeah, I've started that book.
Then we had a couple listener submissions. Our friend Ian Yellen writes in to remind us that Elaine and Nynaeve treat Matt quite terribly after he rescues them, obviously, which we've spoken about before. But eventually, Aviendha tells Elaine that she has tow to Matt, and she and Nynaeve actually go to Matt and apologize to him for specifically treating him as badly. So they do recognize it, and then Matt just becomes more suspicious of them. He doesn't take it at face value at all, which is very, very typical. We wondered why Black Archer sisters don't just tie off the shields that they used. I think specifically when they had the girl shielded in the Stone of Tyr. And that's because as soon as you tie off a shield, it can be unpicked, which is, I assume, what Morgideon did when Nynaeve had tied off her shield now in the Panarch's palace. But there you go. There's the reason. Like Ian is catching up to some of our older episodes, so as we are asking these questions, he's writing in and responding to them. Then the mailman, Richard Jackson, delivers once again.
Yeah,
and he says, when we were asking about Rand, sort of like thinking about like his plan and like what he's trying to achieve and stuff, Richard just made it real clear and distinct for me. Like Rand's plan is that he is going to just unite the Aiel and use them to go conquer the wetlands. And I think we sort of touched on maybe that's the plan or not. Maybe I'm giving us too much credit, but that's the plan that he's working toward. And we'll get to it a bit later, but a lot of that stuff sort of crystallized for me here right at the end of the book.
Yes.
When Rand is dealing with Lanfear and talking about, I knew about your trap, and when it was going to be sprung and all that sort of stuff. I floated a wild theory about whether Melaine was ready to lay a bridal wreath at Rand's feet to tie him to the Aiel because he doesn't think of them as his own people or anything like that. But Richard says, look, he thinks that the wise ones know, because they have dreamwalkers and dreamers and stuff between them, that he thinks that they know that Aviendha is tied romantically to Rand, which is another reason why they've put this very obvious spy right next to him to sort of like ensure that happens. And Richard is of the opinion that Melaine was saying that she was going to lay Aviendha's bridal wreath at Rand's feet herself, like force the issue. Sort of like expediting sense. What they expect is going to. That does make more sense. I mean, yes. Melaine is one of the more fiery wise ones, but I don't think she would necessarily just offer to marry Rand. Although, I don't know, I would like to see that.
Weirdest shit has happened in these books.
Varen pretty much stated that she's willing to marry any one of the three just to keep tabs on them.
Yeah.
So it won't be the first one.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the good stuff, but not before I do a quick recap of what happened last time. Previously on Blood and Ashes, in Emansfield, the villagers have been fighting off numerous Trolloc attacks. Loyal returns carrying an injured Gaul after successfully sealing the Waygate. Perrin shoots Slayer with an arrow in the Wolf Dream, resulting in an injured Luke fleeing from town. Perrin sends Fael to Caemlyn with a message to Morghese, but is really just trying to send her to safety. She agrees if Perrin will marry her right on the spot, and they do. Perrin gets married in Book 4. Nynaeve, Elaine, Egiernan, with the help of Bael Doman, infiltrate the Panarch's palace, disguised as servants. Elaine bests a Black Archer sister while rescuing the Panarch. Nynaeve finds the domination bands and a seal to the Dark One's prison, but is then confronted by Morgideon, who she bests and shields. Another Black Archer sister interrupts them. What was her name, Villy? Linda or Janice? some arbitrary name.
Jean, I don't know.
Janine.
Janine.
The Black
Jane.
Archer sister interrupts them with balefire attacks from that fluted rod Terungril that we know was stolen from the tower. Nynaeve escapes with the seal and domination bands after the Black Archer sister and Morgidian both just disappear into thin air. When she meets up with Elaine again and Amathera, they leave the palace guarded by Tom, Domon, and a couple hundred of his sailors, and they make it back to the inn where Nynaeve asks Elaine to destroy the domination bands, but to no avail, and that's when she asks Domon to drop them in the deepest part of the ocean. Shoo, that is a lot. I mean, the finale for this book has actually been going for a couple of chapters, like
we're in it. We've been in it over the last year.
We've been edging for like weeks now, trying to get to this ultimate.
Edging, such a bad word to use.
It's not a bad word. What's wrong with it? Don't kink shame. Chapter 56 is called Golden Eyes, and why don't you take us through that one? Speaking of freaky deakies, Vinny, why don't you take us through Golden Eyes?
Oh, yeah, okay. Perrin and Fael are married, as you said, and this is it was a joyous occasion, and Perrin has sent her away the night before, and she has honored her vow to him to go and ride like the wind. Perrin is sitting in the Wine Spring Inn. It's early morning. It's quiet. There's no fires burning. There's no smell of cooking. It's unlike the Wine Spring Inn in an early morning. And the only sound that there is Perrin scribbling on paper on already a fourth page in writing this letter to Fael. Pretty much the letter is about him just not wanting to say sorry, but it's just his final goodbye because he sees them dying. They're going to be overrun. Or he sees them winning and he's going to be hanged by the White Cloaks. Not sure. I haven't really found anything that pushed me either way. But either way, he's used some blotting sand, finishes off the letter, and one of his companions walk in to say the Aiel is back. Perrin is now aware. He seals the letter. He nearly writes Fael Bashir on it, but then remembers to write Ibara, and he's like, oh man, I got a wife. Does his head, adjust his wedding band. He's got to wear the wedding band for 7 days, and he has to tell everyone that he sees, look at my wedding band. I'm married now. Red ribbon tied around his arm, and he now even wishes that he had allowed Fael to tie it in his beard, as she wanted to. He's obviously lovesick puppy, already missing his girl. Now, the Trollocs are coming from the north and the south, as I said, and they're coming in the thousands. So Perrin gets up. Aram is in the room with him, and he's coming with him. Aram has been his little lapdog, babysitting Perrin all along the way. And good so. We'll see later. He gets to his horse. His companions are around him, and they move into the green. And in the green, Perrin spots all the women of the women's circle with all of the other women encircling the children in the green. And they've got anything that they can fashion into a weapon. Scythes that's made into spears and hay forks that has been extended. They are gearing up and they're like, look, we're the last defense in here. If the Trollocs break through ranks, we're going to make sure that the younger kids and boys, and of course the balance of the Tinkers that have got children strapped to their fronts and backs now to run with young infants and babies, they will be making a way clear for them. And Perrin, and they're like, look, Perrin, he still wanted to apologize and say sorry. I'm not sure if he's saying sorry at the time because he does spot the Aiel. And I thought maybe he wants to say sorry to the, not the Aiel, the Tuathathan, that sorry for Aram picking up a sword, or if he's saying sorry for sending away Fael, but he wants to almost cry at that stage. Either which way, they said to him, look, you need to move on. This is women's circle business. We've got this covered. And he's like, okay, well, I know more than prodding into women's business. So women's circles business. It's just, I'll just move on. So he then instructs the companions after he leaves, and including Aram, that when shit goes south, you are to break ranks and go back to the woman and carve a way through for them to get the kids out. And Aram's like, no, I'll go where you go. It's like, oh, goddamn stubborn Aram. And just, do all lords struggle like this? So he likes to reference himself as a lord, but he doesn't want to be called a lord. But anyway, he then moves on and he rides up to the polished turds, all 400 of them. They are all standing out in the green there in rank and file. And Bayer then announces that they'll be leaving. And Perrin is like, the fuck? Leaving? They're like, yeah, no, they aren't going to stay here to be killed. Or no, sorry, they're not going to stay here. Their battle is not with them, and they don't trust him as, and they refer to Perrin as Shadow Spawn. And I'm like, but we've had a deal. You stay, I hand myself over to you after the battle. And I'm still, again, committing to that. Like, if you stay and you help us, I'll hand myself over to you. And eventually, Bornold says, they'll stay, and then shouts command that polish your turds cleaner, because when you die, you'll die clean. Anyway, Perrin shrugs them off and moves on. He heads to the various ranks along their perimeter now as they've fortified Emansfield. He goes to the westwood side first, and Abel is in control of the men around the westwood. He informs Abel that, look, we've been informed the attack's going to come from the north and the south, so be ready to move men. And he's like, look, 50% of my men is ready to move wherever you want them to go. So as soon as the command comes, they can move. Perrin then rides to Tam, who's on the southern side. He's going to be facing one of the charges. Tam is walking like a warder, as I could only imagine Tam with a sword ready for battle to do. 7 days into it and still as a sharp edge ready to go. Alana is out there and she's messing with the catapults, or more so the ammunition of the catapults, the major rocks. They're doing some black magic or blue magic or green magic on them. And to the east side, John Thane and Samuel Craw is in charge. Perrin sort of lets it, but they ready for it. Everyone sort of, Perrin's just checking on his command around. And eventually he decides he's going to make his stand in the north. Maybe partly because that's the direction that Vale rode into as well. Kind of like trying to, to have a little cry there about his lost love, thinking that they're going to fade and die in this battle. Now, Bran supposedly is in charge there, but because Perrin's there, we can pretty much assume Perrin will take charge. He gives Perrin a deep bow, or as deep as his girth will allow him. Ghoul and Chide are there. They are already chauffeured up. Veils on. They are. All they're not doing is knocking their spears against their bucklers ready for battle. They are pumped. Loel, who was offered the opportunity to leave as well, and said, "No, did you expect me to be gone?" I like this. This is a great little exchange between Perrin and Loel, where Loel even cracks a joke with him. Yeah, like, you didn't expect me to go. Like, I'm bound to you, Perrin, and I might even be written about in stories as a hero from this day. And Perrin is like, man, what are you talking about? You're already a hero. And I have their little bit of a laugh and a grin there. Loel has got 2 wood axes. So they're pretty long-handled, big-headed axes to split wood. And it looks like
hatchets in his
hatchets.
hands.
It looks like but just explain. I imagine it would be pretty light for him as well, how he'd be wielding those 2 wood axes in the faces of Trollocs.
Destructively.
Very, very much so. Varen and Thomas is around the area. Thomas is ready to carve away for her. He is looking like a blade with his color-shifting cloak on. And she's spots Perrin and sort of rides up to him. And he says to her, he's surprised to see that her and Alana are still here. I mean, at the end of the day, you just came out here to look for gifted girls, not to be in the middle of a losing battle. And she's like, man, I would cut myself in 3 to stay next to either you or Rand or Matt. That's how interested I am into studying you. So I'm here for the long haul. and if I could marry you, I would. And Perrin's like, I'm married. And he loves that line. For the first time, he could drop it like, oh, yeah, I've got that line now all packed up. He's married. Varen sort of snaps that reverie of Perrin about his thinking about his marriage. And says, you should know, there's a few things that you should know about marrying Zareen Bashir and what it means. And while he's still like, what do you mean? There's a massive cry of Isom, and it has begun. There is a line of Trollocs up on the wood, just outside the firing line of the arrows, in the thousands, with Fades running up and down with horses, Braveheart style, screaming about freedoms and something, except they're screaming, Isom! Isom! And they're like, the fuck, they're talking? What's happening here? And Varen is like, interesting. And Perrin's like, no, not interesting. This isn't interesting.
Perrin doesn't know what the word means or the name means, but Varen does, because Isom is mentioned in the Dark Prophecy.
So that's why she says interesting. But Perrin is just like, yeah, nah, not very interesting. Well, there's thousands of them. And on the third shout and the last shout of Isom, they start moving in. And these animals on all fours and hooves and just get bolting. It's not very quickly after that, or very quickly after that, Bran yells loose and the first arrows fly. And after that, there wasn't the need to yell for another volley because the men just go on their own accord. By the time Perrin looked around, some guys are already loosing the third arrow. And these arrows rain down on these Trollocs and just start nailing them. But as they fall, others just come from behind, running over the bodies of these Trollocs, and yet more arrows rain down and rain down. And they're like, whoa, Perrin can see already there's just too many of them. But arrows keep flying, Trollocs keep running into the defenses, and they spike themselves, seeming willingly, against the spiked defenses to literally use their bodies as a ladder to get through and break through this. Now the corpses are littering, Fades are being shot down. It is all hell is broken loose. It's a massive battle. At some point, these bodies now start ramming into the defenses, and they start getting through. And the battle is on. Perrin is now drawing his axe out, and just as he draws his axe out, he needs to plant it square between the eyes of a Trolloc that got through the barrier defenses. Varen at this time is riding and sending all the catapults are throwing these stones into the battle, but they turn into fireballs and explode like bombs as they land. So you've got these bombs blowing up in the battlefield with magic stones that's been green magicked up the wazoo. Now, finally, the black wave, or this black tide that keeps flowing to the defenses, breaks through. And Perrin yells to them, look, we're going to have to retreat and get in between the houses. And I think his strategy there is between the houses, they can defend a smaller area, that at least they've got that walls to block off there. And as he's still trying to get these men to fall back, a goat-faced Trolloc climbs up on the back of Stepper and wants to grab him around the neck, and Stepper rears, and with both weight of these men and beast, Stepper falls over onto Perrin's leg and presumably breaking his leg. He's stuck under, and now this claws of this monster is trying to grab him around the neck, and he's trying to get hold of his axe to fight him off. And as he looks up, a sword slices halfway through the neck of this Trolloc, sort of severing the head and pulling out the blade. And it's Aram, who then spins around in a smooth movement, something wading through some rushes, and stabs another Trolloc right in the gut and moves on. And I'm like, Good on you,
Fuck
Tam.
Finally.
There we go. Tam taught this freaking tinker how to use a sword, and he actually uses it well. Perrin gets out under Stepper. He gets onto his hobbled leg, and he gets out of the way just in time as a black hoof slams down where his head was, and there's a fade on his monster horse. It's all out battle now. Perrin ducks that black sword as the fade swings the sword for his head. As he ducks it, literally shaving his hair, he rolls over, smooth movement, and chops off the horse's leg in one brilliant move, like in Braveheart as well. The horse fade falls forward because horses don't stand well on three legs. And as the fade falls, and just as he turns, Perrin's ready, and he plants the axe square in the middle of his face where his eyes would have been.
As the fade is falling.
As it's falling. I thought he had hit him as he had hit the ground. Like
While he's falling, Perrin hits him in the face. And just
Even
helps
better.
him down. Also just checked, Perrin's leg is not broken. It's pained close to breaking. But
yeah,
not broken.
I think it. Well, maybe it's a little bit of a
The
fracture.
words are pained close to
To
breaking.
Yes, I know that, but I'd like to think that it's
He still does not accept it.
Don't
close
believe
to
it.
breaking. Anywho, Perrin wipes out a fade with one swift blow. It does its snake in the rushes move, thrusting around.
Thrashing about.
Yep. And they move on. It's like, and that's when Perrin realized, like, whoa, what's happening here? The women are between us. And not woman, the girls and boys. Women so young that they're actually girls still. And the same for the boys fighting there. They actually, the men.
Sisters.
Sisters and brothers and the kids, but they are there holding the line. And you can actually see, okay, wow, this influx of numbers is helping them hold their line and fight off the black tide of beasts.
Taishama Netherin.
It's the only reason the line is holding. Yeah.
Red banner of Manetherin. Next moment, young messenger runs up to Perrin, grabs him. It's like, Lord Perrin, listen to me. And he's thinking, shit, where am I going to do? Perrin is thinking how he's going to do this. And young lad eventually gets his attention and said, like, Tam sent me, or Master Althor sent me. The Trollocs are being attacked from behind. And Master Alvear seems to think that they are shouting Devon Ride. And Perrin then sort of gets back on Stepper, and he's like looking, and he can see the second volley of arrows arching in the sky already and start pinning all the Trollocs from behind and the Fades. Now the Trollocs are in disarray. They're turning, and even turning on the Fades. They start killing each other. They don't know where to go. And the arrows just keep flying. And Perrin can see Swallow and Fael, and time stands still. And Perrin is just in love, and everything just goes slow-mo. He doesn't see bodies anymore. He just sees her face. And he's just, oh man, stoked.
Pause there for a sec. This part confused me a little bit because Devon Ride is south of Eamon's Field and Fael went north.
I can explain that for you.
Hill.
It's in my chapter. Just you relax your slacks. Just sit back
Okay.
down. You need to read with a lot of attention.
Uncle Villy's on
Let me
it.
take a sip of water.
Okay. Because Tam was at the southern border, right?
No, Tam was south.
Tam
Yes.
was...
Bran was north. Now,
Yes.
the Devon Ride people did come from the south, and yes, Fael did ride north. But for now, first we deal with the immediate moment. The men are getting up, they're moving forward, they're realizing what is happening. The boy returns and he's like, Lord Perrin, it is men from Devon Ride. It is. And he's like, Perrin is like so stoked, he just ruffles his head like, what's your name, young man? And he's like, I'm Jaime Ibarra. And he's like, I think I'm your cousin. And Perrin's like, what? And he just holding back tears. He just wants to cry because there's Fael and he's got family left. Yeah, I didn't even think he knew that he had a cousin. And he says, well, young cousin James, tell your children and your grandchildren about today. And when James is like, you girls are horrible.
Grandchildren, yucky.
Grandchildren, yuck, not gonna happen. He's like, yeah, right, we'll see about that. He's gonna run off to Han now and tell Han about this, him being parent, master parent, Lord Perrin's cousin. Super stoked. He's got his story. And that's when Perrin rides over bodies. Doesn't even notice it's just a road of Trollocs dodging the snake-like quiverings of dying fades. And he rides, and it is all the way up to Fael, and he stops next to Stepper. And she looks up at him and she's like, I never said. And she starts explaining furiously why she didn't leave for the intended quest, which was to go to the Queen and get help and tell the story of what happened. Just like, I never said when I'll get and she dies her way through that. And Perrin doesn't say a thing. He just looks at her and he sits there taking in this moment, and she just keeps explaining. And eventually she's just like, just say something. And he said, I love you. And then they embrace, and she hugs him like she's squeezing him in half. And she explains that she rode north and she found the men ready, and it didn't take much for her to turn them and bring them. And she knew it was the right thing.
From Watch Hill.
Yeah, from Watch Hill. Not even Tenobia had led men into battle, even though she tried. And she's going to one-up Tenobia big time now with this thing. And Perrin can't understand, but what about Devon Ride? Like, where did they come from? She's like, the messenger that came the night before. And the last message that he could get out before he died was like, we are on our way.
We come, bro.
She figured it out, but she didn't want to plant false hope if it was wrong. That it was a rider from Devon Ride coming to let them know they are on their way. So that she figured that if they're coming from the north and they're coming from the south, and she's coming from the north and they're coming to the south, they've effectively flanked them completely. And that's what happened. So the Two Rivers folk of all the towns there pulled together, and they pulled off a major victory. And as they embraced Perrin, lifting Fael out of her saddle onto his pommel, and just stoked, and the whole village has come out after their victory, some still firing some arrows at some snake-like fades squibbling about. And they're all making a big circle. And who decides to come out of the village? The pristine-looking, white-garbed cunts of the light. I mean, children of the light.
No, you had it right the first time.
And these fuck knuckles have not done a single thing. They demand entrance into the circle, and old Jared Beyer spitting out the works of, now right, this is us now coming to arrest you, dark friend and murderer. And Perrin's like, whoa, not so fast.
Fucking
calm yourself.
Mental gymnastics these guys would have to do to convince themselves that Perrin is a dark friend after this battle against hordes of Shadowspawn, where he personally killed a number of them.
No, they can't do that math. They don't do that math. They think that this is still part of his plan of escape as a dark friend.
I know.
His plan was to let the whole village die and then escape. That is his plan. That's why they didn't want to fight, because that is his plan.
So dumb.
Anyway, and Perrin's like, just hold on. Where were you, White Cloaks? You weren't in the battle. Our deal was that you help and I hand over. You didn't help. Where were you? And then Daisy Conga steps in. And she's like, hold on. I know where they were. They were sitting looking pretty for a Sunday dance on their horses and didn't move. They just stood there. That's why we women joined the ranks, because we knew if we didn't move, we had to stand in for 400 men, and we did it better than them, which they did. And Now Jared Bauer is frothing. He's so angry because earlier Perrin also told him, if you want bravery, look at the woman behind me. So now already the woman was braver then and acted as well while they were sitting polishing their turds to look shiny for the death that wouldn't come. Fucking white blokes. I hate them. Anyway, Jared then decides to draw a hand length of sword in anger. And as he drew that half length and the oblivious beast of a white cloak behind him decided to do the same, probably about 400 bows get drawn at the same time at them and say, like, let's do this. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight, motherfucker. Anyway.
Bring a sword to an arrow fight.
Yeah. They are furious and they will... And parents like, leave. You leave, not just here. You leave the 2 rivers. Go back to your country. Don't return. Remember this place. We fuck things up. And no certain terms. This is not Dark Friend place. You haven't helped anyone here. All you've done was casting accusations of Dark Friend and allowing us to get murdered. Leave. Men from Devon Ride or from Watch Hill, I cannot recall. Just ask Perrin then at that moment, can they make sure that these punks leave? They'll escort
It's
them
Watch
out.
Hill.
There's Watch Hill's
Because
men.
they go back to Watch Hill, and so they
Yeah.
escort them north back to their
Perrin's
town.
like, thumbs up. And everyone's like, hooray for Lord Golden Eyes. Hooray for Lord Perrin. And Fael is like, I'm as forward as a Damani girl right now. Can we go back to that inn? You and me, we need to go lay down, but you don't get to sleep. Sex
Leading troops into battle does things to her.
Ooh, she is worked up. So that's why I end that there with sex line. And then Payden Fane. Fuck. It's like we've just dealt with one sack of shit,
Like a
people.
bitter aftertaste.
Oh God. It's like, so this thing is sitting in a...
Sorry, this just reminded me. You were telling us when you read the last chapter of this book and you make a cup of coffee, don't do that because your coffee's going to be cold. This like, you just finished, you grab that cup of coffee and it's ice cold. That's like Payden Fane.
Fuck.
Yes.
This lunatic is sitting in an oak tree, spitting as he's like cursing Manetherin. They've done it to him in the past. Now they're doing it to him again. And curse Rand. Rand is not fucking even there. But it's Rand's fault. It's Manetherin's fault. It's everything's fault. It's fucking Isem's fault. It's everyone's fault. He's going to kill them all, starting in Tarvalon. Let's go there now. He's just going to fuck right off to Tarvalon now.
It's crazy as a bag of cats.
Damn it. Could they not have killed this fucking guy in the ways the first time? When they saw him there, they should have just ended him. Anyway.
Well, they had him in a jail cell in Feldara as well. Like, I mean,
again, they could have slipped a knife into
book
his
2.
throat slowly.
Yeah.
Stab.
Willie, you suggested that when I pushed back against Moraine's murderous tendencies.
Murder him? There's nothing wrong with that. Not that guy. This guy is so filthy. Anyway, Payden falls out of the tree laughing, as insane that is, and him and his not white cloak group of men that have now finally discarded the uniform and are looking like the rabble and wretched pieces of shit that they are now going to go to Tarvalon. Like, they're not even going to make it past the gate guards, or maybe they will because that other wretched Eli doesn't control that side. So, to be continued. And that is the end of that amazing battle chapter.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
It
It's
was
so good.
Beautiful.
You did a good job, Willie. You built up slowly, but it ended on a high. Like, you could see by my posture, it's completely changed. I was lying back in the chair. Now I'm like right up against the mic.
It is just a great chapter. It starts very somber. Like you almost feel the death of everyone coming, and it reminds me of to the 5th day and dawn. Look to the east, wait for my coming. And it's that moment where You are in your last few men battling thousands and thousands, and then out comes the white wizard on his horse.
This time, the I don't know what color would Fail be and her archers.
Whew. Well,
I don't know.
she's always dressed in dark clothes, black. The Black Beauty on Swallow.
Did you have anything that you wanted to call out specifically, Joe? Because as you can imagine, I have a number of things to dive into.
Really? Because I thought like Willie just covered every single point. Might as well just have read the chapter. It was
Did, yeah. My things are just calling out specific little moments in there that I really loved.
No, you go for it.
One of them being Perrin, when he writes that note to Fail, he thinks to himself after writing it, "Oh, I don't have the right words," but it's like it's a beautiful passage. It is succinct and like to the point, and heart wrenching. It is amazing. Something like when the sun shines on you, that's me smiling at you.
Yeah, I don't have the right words.
Yeah.
Page 4 of poetry.
He knows he has words. He just doesn't know if they're the right words. Yeah.
Oh man, it's also Gaul and Triad are fighting back to back.
Oh man, I had that. I never mentioned that.
And after the battle, they actually emerge like holding hands.
Ah.
Like how far have they come? Like they're walking out of the battle, actually holding hands in front of everyone. That was also just a little moment that melted my heart. And book 4 as well, like early days. Okay, cool. Golden Triad, like established. I have in big bold letters. Parent chops a fade in the face as they're falling. But immediately after that, when the women start joining the battle,
Hold that thought. Go. Let's rewind back to the fade, the axe, and between the eyes. I envisioned it as the leg being cut off. Perrin is down. He had to sort of parry and roll down, chop the leg, low level of the horse. Horse goes forward. He turns. Fade goes forward over, and I would imagine him fall and rolling to Perrin, and the axe going splitting his head between the eyes. Now, the way that you describe it is while he's falling, Perrin is swinging the axe and chopping off the top of his head, which could
that's how I imagined it. But I mean, that is by no means the golden rule by which we should measure the accuracy of our interpretation here. Like, I mean, I'm just imagining about who knows what like images of this battle I've retained from when I was in high school, right? Like, I mean, I could be just remembering what I misread 20 years ago.
But either way, I love both of them. Like, it's
Either way, yes.
So the moment that I really love, I'm going to tip my hand. This is actually my favorite moment from these chapters, is when the women join the battle. The very first one, like when Perrin's busy fighting, he notices Marin, Alvear, here in between him and the Trollocs. And she walks behind a Trolloc with a butcher's knife, hamstrings it, so it drops down to one knee, and then she walks to its back and she severs its spine at its neck, like she's actually butchering a pig or an animal or something. But the way it's described, it's like calm. She's just walking, doing the thing that she would do in the kitchen or in the abattoir, like the slaughtering yard or something, just like going about her business, dismantling this Trolloc piece by piece. It is amazing. I fucking loved it. Like I'm tearing up now, like just thinking about it. And then like the passage immediately after that is Matt's sisters, like Bode or someone is picked up by a Trolloc by the hair, like he lifts her up, and as he lifts her up, she stabs it in the chest, and then her sister stabs a spike through its chest from behind. Like the sisters, and also not like crying or freaking out, like they're young, and here they are, like with the wherewithal to kill the Trolloc while it's picking her up by the hair. It is just, it is a moment that has stuck with me. That specific moment, like the woman joining the battle in that very, like you called out, Joe, in that very sort of like Manetheran tradition, right? Like the woman also joining the battle and not standing back. No shrinking violets in the Two Rivers.
No, not at all.
I remember that from when I was a teenager, when I read the stories, and how that like just hit home. And when like in the lead up to this, like how the women are sort of like taking half rations because the men are the ones that have to fight, and here the white cloaks not joining the battle, but the women are in there, and the women are the only reason that the line is holding. And then the way in which it describes how these common, like these characters that you've read about before are just calmly, well, you know, in inverted commas, calmly going about killing these nightmare creatures is, it's just so fucking rad. I just love it so much.
If you put yourself in the mind of those women who have encircled the children, their last act would be to defend and probably give our lives while the men have failed, or after the men have failed, to get these kids out to go and hide in the woods. And then standing there, hearing the commotion of battle and looking to 400 saddled soldiers not moving.
Just sitting there.
And the anger that must be going through them, and that awakening that Manetheren spirit, just saying, right, ladies, let's go and do this. And them all going, and the young boys joining in and saying, like, we're all, and they all just going in and saying, fuck this. We got to kill all this black tide of Trollocs so that we can boot out these fucking children of the light out of our town.
There's a poignant line about those boys where, like, Robert Jordan says, some of these boys have never even shaved, and some of them never will. It's like, oh, Robert,
but
my heart,
come on.
That's
the beauty of it. Perrin sits in the moment of the village coming up to them, and he just goes through the names, one name after the other name after the other name, and they are all there, all alive. I don't think anyone fell in this battle. There's no reference made to one death.
Well, the implication that some of the boys will never shave is that some of the boys died.
That's Perrin's thoughts before the battle. It's his thoughts.
Hey, I want nothing more than for that to be true.
It is truth.
It is like
it is canon.
10,000 Trollocs attacked the village and no one inside died.
Villy's stamp of approval. This is canon. No Emansfield has died. Villy, I'm loving your commitment to the enduring nature of the Emansfielders. Like, not even willing to entertain the idea.
I've lived this chapter for 5 weeks, so let's just understand how I'm amped up. Like it's Carry on.
I also love how when Perrin tells Bornal to leave, his words to him exactly are, "You are going now." Not "go now" or like, "Here's an instruction." It's a statement of fact. You are going now.
Yeah.
You are leaving. Emansfield, the Two Rivers, the works. This is what's happening now. You are leaving, whether you've realized it yet or not. Which is amazing. And then is it at the end of this chapter where someone calls him Lord Perrin or something, and he shouts after them, "Don't call me that. I'm just a blacksmith."
Lord Blacksmith.
after all this, "I'm just a blacksmith." No, Perrin, you can give that one up now. That might be the last. That better be the last time he tries to use that line, because from here on out, he is most certainly Lord Perrin Golden Eyes. Couple comments from old mate, what's his name, Paden Fane, sitting in the tree. He mentions that, why did Isom stop bringing Trollocs? This must be because of the sealing of the gate that Loyal and Gaul did. So the fact that it's sort of putting Paden Fane out means that it was at least somewhat effective. Like, who knows how much worse it would have been if they didn't go seal that gate. So, I mean, cannot understate the influence that Loyal and Gaul had on the outcome of this battle, right? Like, Loyal most certainly, like, even though he jokes about it, is a hero, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. You can quantify it. At least 10,000 Trollocs.
Paden Fane also says how the Red Eagle had harried him so long ago. And I wondered, like, so obviously this is a Mordeth memory. What was Mordeth's relationship with Manetheren? And as you recall, like, Aradol and Manetheren were allies. And then Aradol was supposed to be the city that came to help them. at the fall of Manetheren, and they never arrived. And it was actually the Aes Sedai, the Amlin seat at the time, that had intervened because she was jealous of Elisandre's power and popularity. So the Amlin seat, when they found out, had prevented Aradol from helping Manetheren. They deposed her and stilled her. But Mordeth in Aradhol had influenced the king there, and the prince from Manetheren had gone to Aradhol to go talk to them or seek help or whatever it was, but he had convinced the king of Aradhol to capture and torture and imprison the prince. So the statement that the Red Eagle had harried him so long ago seems weird because there were never battles between the two. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm posing a question to our listeners. If you have any more insights into what Paden Fan could be meaning here, let me know, because
I think it's maybe a personal thing, harried him specifically. And they found out what they had done to the prince or the few survivors of that battle that went after him or something. There's some side story we're not aware of.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, I'm just writing fan fiction. That's what happened.
That's half of what we do here. Janine and the Battle of Aradol.
Good old Janine.
Do you guys have anything more to add to that one, or shall we progress to phase 2 of this 3-phased finale?
Phase 2, please.
Okay, then.
I think we got to go on. It's
then
sticking.
Let's do that. Chapter 57 is called A Breaking in the Threefold Land. So we join Rand and Matt and Lan and Moraine and Avienda and Egwene and the Wise Ones and the Tardad and,
and that gecko
every Aielman and his dog. As they are riding up towards Alcair Dal, as Rand had requested for the Dreamwalkers to let all the other Aiel know to do. They are accompanied, and I mean the party that we're familiar with, are accompanied by a shit ton of Tardad Aiel, right? Like the custom for meeting at Alcair Dal is for the chiefs and some of the Sept chiefs to come with a couple of their honor guards from their respective previous warrior societies before becoming chiefs. But Rand had said, no, we're going to take everyone, because Couladin had disappeared in the middle of the night, and Rand had a suspicion that Couladin was up to something. So he said, bring everybody. So as the Tardad have left Cold Rocks, the other Septs of Tardad had sort of joined with them along the way with some of their Sept chiefs and some more warriors and stuff, resulting in a force, I think Rand says, around 15,000 Aiel spears, which is no joke. Mm-hmm. So they're riding up towards what Rand calls like just some, not mountains of mist or dragon wall sized mountains, but just like these slabs of rock in the distance, as they approach where Alcair Dal is. Rand has an honor guard of Maidens of the Spear. Chiefs usually have, like I said before, like they've got an honor guard of the warriors from the warrior society that they came from, but because Rand doesn't have one, he does have maidens because his mother was a maiden, and I think it's Adelin or one of the other maidens explains how cool it is that if a maiden of the spear falls pregnant and she has a baby, but she wants to remain a maiden, she gives that baby away and she never knows what family that baby goes to. They never hear from that baby again. That baby never knows that it is the baby of a maiden or anything like that. So Rand is the first child of a maiden to come back to the maidens, which is another reason why they feel so protective over him. So this is the first time that that's happened, and now Rand has this honor guard of maidens, which is a recurring theme that we see throughout the books, right? Like Rand has his maidens with him all the time, which is also just so rad. I love that. To the very end, maidens with Rand all the time. So as they're riding with, and Kyle Shayogi and Hadnan Kadir and like all the peddlers and Asmodean and Isandre and all the other ne'er-do-wells from that peddler wagon are also with them. They're all coming because there's going to be this big fair at Alcair Dal where all the clans are meeting. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for trade. And they sort of crest this ridge before they get to Alcair Dal proper. And below them is where this fair is gathered for this meeting. There's 200 to 300 low wallless tents and pavilions set up all over for people to display their wares, and people are sort of moving between them, sort of like a bazaar type thing. B-A-Z, not B-I-Z.
Either or.
And on the surrounding hills, there are 5 other camps. Four of them are sort of normal size, and then one of them is huge. And Rand suspects that's probably the Shido. And even as they arrive, Rand thinks it's a good thing that he broke custom and brought all these Tardad Aiel with him, because the Shido are obviously going to be a problem. They are going to cause shenanigans.
I think we should also just refer to them as Shadow Dogs. As always.
Shadow Dogs, yes, they're true
like
name.
Elida.
Yes.
And what's the other one? Couladin.
Mortin.
Shadow Dogs.
Savannah.
Oh, Savannah. Sorry.
Yeah. The Shido seem to be making their way to the mountains nearby, and sort of lining up at this narrow pass into the mountains proper. So the Shido had just recently arrived and are sort of moving some of their numbers towards where we know Alcardal is, through that narrow pass. Rourke tells Rand that there would already be discussions underway between the clans that are already there. He explains that if two clans or two chiefs meet, they discuss water. If three clans meet, they discuss water and grazing. And Rand goes, what happens when four clans meet? And Rourke goes, they dance the spears. And now there are 6 clans. So, this whole situation is a powder keg. As Rand's sort of sitting up on this ridge looking at everything, Moiraine asks if she can accompany Rand. But Amis just says to her, this is men's business. If you do this, then the men they're going to start wanting to involve themselves in Wise One's business, and that's why we don't mix in each other's business. So it's not your place. And Moiraine tries to sort of say, like, maybe Lan should go with you to just have another eye on your back, and Rand just says, no, the maidens carry my honor.
Maidens, that's it.
Yeah, they'll do just fine. Don't you worry about that.
Yo, that's like Moiraine can't insert anyone at this moment onto Rand. It's like just
she's
not even Lan.
She's still trying to keep her hand on the wheel, and it's just not working.
The boat has sailed.
Yeah. Bear also cautions Rand to be careful, almost like she can read his mind, because Rand is feeling tired from lack of sleep, and Bear says to him, tired men make mistakes, so just be on your guard. And then below, people start sort of taking note of their presence up on the hill, and then sort of the Tardad and the wagons pass by them and start moving down into the sort of the valley where the fair is. Egwene comes up to Rand and reminds Rand that he doesn't fight alone, that others fight for him on his behalf. And he immediately thinks of Perrin and Eamon's Field before asking her, what do you mean? But then Moiraine again chimes in with, I fight for you, Rand, and so does Egwene. And Egwene and Moiraine have like a little bit of a moment between them that Rand is pretty sure he shouldn't have been cognizant of, but he can sense some tension between them. I don't know if this is Egwene maybe sort of now ingratiating herself with the Wise Ones a little bit, maybe feeling less like she is subject to Aes Sedai rules and that sort of thing. She is acting a little bit. She's not acting like an accepted or a subordinate of a full-blown Aes Sedai. She's differing in opinion with Moiraine, to put it lightly. Moiraine sort of just goes on about like, you force the age lace around you and blah, 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 all the Tavern bullshit we're quite well familiar with. But all Rand can think about is how Egwene is actually acting quite Aes Sedai these days. Like, he can see the change in her already. So he doesn't necessarily think of her as his village betrothed in which he can confide anymore. That ship has sailed. Below them, again, the Aiel are starting to crowd around the peddler wagons that have now made their way down there. Jason Natail and Kadir, the two men, are trying to speak urgently with Kylie Shiogi and Isandre separately. Like, they're both trying to control these women who are quite obviously irate and who apparently for days now have been shooting daggers at each other, right? Like, they cannot stand each other for reasons which, again, we know. Rand just warns Egwene and everyone to be on their guard. And I can't remember who corrects him. One of the Aiel, I think, that says, or maybe even Rourke, that says, don't worry, or one of the Wise Ones, don't worry, there won't be any fighting yet because it goes against custom. But here Rand is like, you guys don't know what I know. and this is what I was talking about before, Joe, where some stuff had like crystallized for me. Rand knows that one of the Forsaken is here, probably two in their midst, and that there is a trap to be sprung, and that one of them is going to spring it first. So he's warning them against, look, anything can happen. All right. So don't just worry about the Shido or like dancing with the spears. Shit's going to hit the fan here. Be ready. Matt, out of the blue, asks if he can come along with Rand, muttering about luck in the old tongue. Rand just says, yes, Matt, you can come. Like, he seems surprised that Matt wants to come and doesn't want to spend time with the peddlers' wagons, because Matt's been sort of like buzzing around Desandre for a while now. But he's more than happy to have Matt come along. And then Rand just says to Ruark, so isn't it about time? And Ruark goes, yes, it should be any time. And then these pipes start playing, and Ruark goes, anytime now. You know, like the timing was exactly right. And as they advance, these pipes start playing, and the Tardad starts singing this battle song about washing the spears and all that sort of stuff. And I was a bit confused in the beginning. I didn't realize it was only the Tardad that was singing it. I thought it was some of the Aiel, like in the fairground or in the campments, like all the Aiel in the area. But it's actually specifically the Tardad, and they are veiling themselves. Like they are getting ready to lay down the law, right? If anyone steps to them, it's fucking
15,000 of them.
Yeah.
It's no fucking.
Listen, here's a bit of pedantic math that made me think about. Lawrence, you're going to love it. Now, when you say 15,000 Aiel spears, we know that the Aiel carry 3 spears each. Is that only 5,000 Aiel with 3 spears each, or is that 45,000 spears in total? 15 times 3.
The latter.
Okay, gotcha. So 15,000 men, 45,000 spears. Well, men and women. Gotcha. All right, continue.
So anyway, Rand, Matt, Ruark, and the maidens, a couple of the Sept chiefs and their guards, they step off toward the mountain passage as well, where the Shido are sort of lining up to go in. But as they go down the slope towards it, they stopped sort of near the fair by some more Aiel, and in particular a heavy-set Aielman named Manduin, who turns out is the Sept chief is one of the Sept chiefs of the Goshen Aiel. And he tells Ruark that he's surprised to see the Tardad break tradition by turning up en masse. But Ruark just basically replies with, times change. And boy, do they. Yeah. Manduin explains that Savannah had pushed for the chiefs to meet early, which is why the Shido have already headed in there, and some of the chiefs are already in Alcar Dal, despite some of the other clan chiefs seeing no reason to do so. But Savannah's obviously cognizant of the fact that she needs to sell Couladin as the Kara Khan and he who comes with the dawn before Rand and the Tardad arrive to upset her plans. So one of the wise ones standing next to Manduin says that we hear that he who comes with the dawn has come from Ruidian, that the Kara Khan will be announced today. And then Rand just pipes up. He's not even letting Ruark answer. He just goes, then someone spoke to you a prophecy. And he immediately moves the procession along. He's like, yes, that is happening today. I am he. Everyone, enough of this idle banter. Let's move along. Matt mutters in the old tongue again something about luck, and he mutters in the old tongue, and the translation I looked up is "luck carry me through." So Matt is just saying, "Oh fuck, here it comes. Hope I walk out of this one, and if I do, it'll be because of my luck." In the meantime, the Tardad have lined up in front of the Shido at the pass, still singing their battle song, still veiled. So the Shido who are there, and in lesser in number, I think it even says the Shido know how to count. So they actually make way for Rand and Ruark, Matt, and the Sept chiefs to move through this narrow canyon, which eventually opens up into Alcar Dal itself, which is a big open bowl with sort of steep sloped sides all around. It's almost perfectly round, except at the far end there seems to be a ridge sort of overhanging that resembles a cresting wave. Which I think has probably got something to do with the acoustics, and it seems like the stage that they can speak from is also under that, so you can stand up there, and when you speak in a normal voice, your voice carries around the whole bowl, I guess.
The whole bowl.
Amphitheater.
The whole bowl.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of, yes. Inside the bowl, the Aiel are grouped by warrior society and not by clan. sort of to help keep the peace. Like the tradition is, okay, stone dogs, you go sit there, red shields, you go sit there, like let's keep clan politics out of this. But the Sept chiefs and the clan chiefs are sitting by clan, and they're sitting right at the stage below that overhang. Rand can see from a distance a specific redhead that he recognizes, and he sees Couladin. It makes him out there. So he knows, okay, Couladin is here. Couladin is not a chief, so his presence here is, signposting to Rand exactly what's happening. But Savannah is on the stage, busy addressing all the chiefs sitting in front of it. She's a pretty woman, well short of her middle years, which surprised me. I always imagined her as sort of like middle age, like 50s. Like is the sort of age that I'd always pictured her. But she is well short of her middle years. And she married the Shido clan chief when she was 16.
All right.
Yeah.
I also pictured her older.
She is actually still quite young. I read somewhere online that she actually always had feelings for Couladin, but married for power. And now that,
seems a Shido thing to do.
Yeah, it is a very Shido thing to do, isn't it?
A shoddy thing. Shady.
A shoddy Shido. Shitty, shoddy Shido thing to do.
Shady.
So Savannah's standing on the stage and she's trying to get the chiefs to let Couladin speak. So first she's asking for permission to let Couladin just get on the stage without getting speared to death for breaking tradition.
Spear him to death.
And
please.
But the chiefs, they're just not hearing it. She speaks for Suladric because Suladric is dead, and until another clan chief is dead, is raised for the Shido, she is it. They also say that the Dreamwalkers told them that Couladin was denied entry to Ruidian, so they know there's no chance that he's going to have any right to stand on the stage and address them. Rand notices that the Aiel in the bowl number around 3,000 to 4,000, so there's a lot of people in here. And they're starting to take notice of Rand and his approaching party. Bale of the Goshin and some of the other chiefs, they start changing the topic when they all start noticing Rand's approaching party. So they're not even listening to Savannah about Couladin. They're like, all right, cool. Well, while we're here, let's talk about other stuff. But then Rand and his party start approaching. And when they do, they all go quiet. And they sort of obviously can see that Ruach is also breaking tradition here by bringing more than one wetlander in here. So they ask him about it. They say, like, well, what are you thinking bringing this wetlander here? And they were told that he who comes with the dawn has emerged from Ruidian, that surely this can't be him. You're not coming here to tell us that this wetlander is he who comes with the dawn. And Savannah uses this as an excuse for Couladin to be allowed to speak, saying that if Ruach is doing this, then surely Couladin can speak as well. But while she's even trying to make a cogent argument, Couladin's already scrambled up onto the stage and he's pulled his sleeves down, revealing his dragon tattoos, one on each arm, and he starts shouting, "I am the Kara Khan." Right, so throughout this exchange, imagine Couladin standing on stage. He doesn't understand how the acoustics of this place works. He is shouting the whole time, and whenever Rand talks, he's just talking in a level like a softer tone, and knowing that his voice carries everywhere. So he just always looks like the much more cool and collected customer than Couladin, who's just ranting and raving like a psychopath.
This reminds me of Game of Thrones as well. Any man who has to say "I am king" is no true king.
It's a good line. So the Aiel that are not Tardad roar with approval. Oh, Couladin, he's got dragon tattoos on each arm. He's the Kara Khan. Everyone is celebrating, but the chiefs look completely stunned. And Matt starts like moving the horses a bit closer. Like, okay, guys, let's just ready for a quick escape if we have to. Couladin proclaims himself the bringer of change, that he'll lead the Aiel across the dragon wall to reclaim the wetlands. He's all about, like, I'm going to restore us to our former glory, and we're going to go across the dragon. We're going to decimate everyone and take everything for ourselves. And Rand is a little bit surprised, but he readies his Ungril in his pocket, and he steps up beside Couladin after taking off his own coat. Couladin's not even paying attention to Rand. Rand's taken off his coat and he undoes his laces on his sleeves and he puts his arms in the air as well and lets his sleeves drop down. And now there's two guys with dragon tattoos on both arms standing up on the stage. As the gathered Aiel in the bowl sort of start taking notice, they quieten down again because what the fuck is going on here? But Couladin is still ranting and raving. because he's unaware of Rand's display. But slowly he cottons on to what must be happening because he can read the room finally.
Mm-hmm.
And when he does sort of realize, he pivots to an attack on Rand's unspoken claim, saying that Rand is a wetlander and an interloper. There's no way that he can be the Kara Khan. But Rand says that, yes, he is a wetlander. But what does the prophecy say about he who comes with the dawn? Born of the blood, but raised by those not of the blood. His mother, Shail, was a maiden. His father was Janduin, clan chief of the Tardad. Where did the Aiel go searching for he who comes with the dawn? They crossed the Dragon Wall in the wetlands where he was raised. And there's a reason for that.
Sound logic.
Absolutely. Here's Rand using logic and reason, right? Not just volume. So the clan chiefs, they sort of nod in acknowledgement. Wise guys, these guys, right? Like they know what's up.
They've been to Rudian. They know the fucking prophecy and they know the shit.
Exactly. So they acknowledge Rand's point, but Couladin brushes it off, saying the words of the prophecy have probably changed over time, which is just fucking
convenient.
Grasping at straws now.
Totally. So Ruach interjects and says that he saw Couladin being denied entry to Ruidian. Couladin couldn't have gotten these tattoos in Ruidian. But Couladin counters that with the idea that the Aes Sedai manipulated the Wise Ones to prevent him from going in, and that Moraine went to Ruidian herself. These guys didn't tell you that, did they? As well as that she gave Rand his tattoos. That Moraine gave Rand fake tattoos using the One Power. Plus, Rand and Moraine killed Manduin, his brother, which is just crazy. I mean, he might believe killing of Manduin, but he has fake tattoos. Like, I wonder if Asmodean used compulsion or something on him to convince him of these things, because he is. We'll get to it, but like, they are just bold-faced lies in his claims. He says he went to Ruidian at night in secret. Bullshit. You didn't. You know. When the chiefs question why he went without permission from the Wise Ones, he just says, he who comes with the dawn brings change. You know, so he can do what he wants. Like, using some of the argument that Rand has for some of his sort of, new behaviors, he's using to just justify his complete fabrications. But Rand has Couladin in his own lie now, because now Couladin has said that he's been to Ruidian. And Rand asks him, so what did you see in Ruidian? And Couladin says, no, we don't speak of it. Suddenly now, he who comes with the dawn doesn't change the rules. No, I'm not going to talk about this thing that I made up.
No, nothing about.
So Rand just says straight up, I walked among the glass columns beside Avendasora. I saw through the eyes of my ancestors. What did you see? I'm not afraid to speak. Are you? And the chiefs now, knowing where Rand is going with this, and a lot of that ringing true, start getting nervous, and they say we should move apart from everyone else here. This is not for discussion in front of everybody. Like, this is clan chief stuff. But Savannah steps in and says that, because she's cottoning on, she's like, oh shit, okay, Couladin's in dangerous water here because he's lying, and Rand seems to know things that Couladin doesn't. So she's going to quickly just diffuse that situation by saying, no, Ruach told Rand about what happens in the glass columns and stuff. To which the chiefs are just aghast. They're like, no, forget that. No. Ruach is a man of honor. He would never do that. But Couladin takes the bait, and he exclaims that he's not afraid to talk. Rand, how dare you challenge my bravery? I'm not afraid. I saw our coming to the threefold land. I saw our glory, the glory I will bring back. And Rand says, well, I saw the Age of Legends, the beginning of the Aiel journey into the threefold land. And Ruach tries to stop him there, but Rand just sort of shrugs him off and keeps going. And he says, I saw the Aiel when they were called Dashane Aiel and followed the way of the leaf. Okay.
Boom.
Pandemonium.
He who comes with the dawn bring change.
Yes. Roars of no from the Aiel. Like, obviously the Aiel gathered there are freaking out, and Couladin accuses Rand of lying. We've always been warriors, sealing his own fate there. When he says we've always been warriors, the other chiefs are like, oh fuck yeah, he's bullshitting, isn't he? And Savannah tries to shut him up, but she can't. It's too far now. Like, Couladin's too G'd up, and he's busy shouting at everyone. The chiefs are dead silent. They're just standing there. They know what Rand saw is the true thing, and that Couladin is full of shit. And one by one, the clan chiefs name Rand al'Thor, the Kara Khan, and he who comes with the dawn. and there is just silence. I mean, earlier it was like roaring celebration stuff, and now then it went to like, what do you call it?
Outrage?
Objection and like, like defiance, like, no, this cannot be. And now the whole bowl is silent. Couladin jumps from the ledge, grabs a spear from one of his own guard, and he throws it at Rand, only to have Adelin jump up with her buckler and actually like catch the spear. Like it punctures her buckler and spins her in the air, but she stops it from hitting Rand, obviously. And then chaos erupts. Fighting breaks out in groups all over the place. And Matt and Ruach and the maidens all jump up on the stage, and they sort of like, they're trying to protect Rand. And Rand figures, okay, I can't let this play out. So he starts channeling, and he does something he's never done before. We've all heard this before. Basically he causes a thunderstorm and he makes it rain. Clouds start forming, lightning in the sky, and it starts raining in the Aiel Waste. Like it has never happened. They make it sound like this is the first time it's ever rained here. But suddenly it stops raining around Rand as someone creates some kind of invisible dome over him, pushing Matt and the Tarded Aiel away from Rand. And lo and behold, it's everyone's favorite, Lanfear. But she's pissed off. But Rand isn't even surprised to see her, and he's only surprised at how soon she's revealed herself. He's known that he was being followed since they left Tyr.
Mm-hmm.
He demands to know where her accomplice is, because he knows he's figured out she's got probably a male accomplice. She sort of lets out that he probably gave himself away in your dream, that scene where they were in the pool and then Asmodean came in all foggy and stuff. But Lanfear demands to know why Rand sent Asmodean away. You could have used him to teach you, because now he thinks he's found something in Ruidian, Asmodean. All his work with Couladin and the Drakkar attack to keep Rand distracted so that he can go focus on whatever he thinks he's found in Ruidian. And now all her plans are in ruins, because she brought Asmodean there specifically to teach Rand. And none of the other male Forsaken will teach Rand. She lists them off there. But it becomes clear that, Asmodean was only ever, if there was going to be a male Forsaken to teach Rand anything, it would only ever have been Asmodean. So she is pissed off because she wants Rand to actually succeed. She doesn't want him to go crazy.
Yes.
And Asmodean's her only hope for that. But at this point, Rand has all the information he needs. Ruidian. Asmodean is there? Cool. So like while she's in the middle of her tirade, Rand just channels a gateway, not like a traveling gateway like we know, but a gateway for skimming. Surprising Lanfear then, who then says, oh, so you do remember some things from your past. And then what's in Ruidian? And Rand only responds with Asmodean. He steps through the gateway and he closes it behind him, thinking that she can probably weave a gateway as well, but this is more for like dramatic effect and it'll slow her down a little bit. He's like, oh, this should piss her off. And closes the gateway behind him. And that's how the chapter ends.
Yes, she has her own plans. And they include a very well-trained and competent Rand to rule by her side. And this farm boy bullshit will not stand.
No. How did you guys feel about this chapter this time around? Because for me, it was actually quite different from both other times I read it. Like I got a lot more from it.
Yeah, I can remember they met and there was fighting and there was two people with tattoos and one of them was a shadow dog and the one of them was Rand. And that's like the rain, the numbers, the quantity, like none of that stuck at all. But
no,
it's very, very like sets a scene of drama, and especially the fair. That there's okay, cool. We're all going to get together. We might as well trade some goods if we're not going to veil up and stab each other. But air of tension from the onset of them entering that bowl. And Rand is just so calm at this stage. He's got
smart, right?
Moraine under his thumb. Like literally, I think this is like Moraine is just frothing. He's like, you are in the threefold land now. You're in my people's country. I call the shots here.
And remember, Moraine thinks that Rand is completely wasting his time here.
Yeah.
You know, she does not buy into this like Aiel, people of the dragon, you know, part of the prophecy at all. She still thinks that Rand should be leading, you know, an army against Ilian, against Samael. You know, like her thinking is so old school. Like if you think how far we've come just in this book. And the other thing that stood out for me this time around is just like when I was in high school and maybe even like in my early 20s when I reread it, I was always like very dismissive of the, okay, yeah, then you'll find out that they used to follow the way of the leaf. Oh, big whoop. Okay, cool. You know, get over it. But here it seemed a lot more poignant and a lot more dramatic, you know, not just the knowledge of that, but like how Rand employs the knowledge of that to prove that he's the one that went through the glass columns and the chiefs have to accept that, you know, so they know. So he is dooming the Aiel to a terrible fate by doing this, but everyone eventually comes around to the fact like, well, fuck, this actually had to happen this way. You know, all the weight of the stuff that we spoke about before about how, you know, we sort of dismissed how Rand would actually break the Aiel, how a remnant of them will remain after all is said and done. You know, like that is their prophecy, and they were, you know, incredibly cautious and wary of it for obvious reasons. I mean, a remnant of their whole people. And here Rand is like laying that doom out in front of all of them and basically saying, I have now taken the hourglass and turned it. It is only a matter of time until your people are destroyed, right? Yeah. Until only some of them are left over.
It is the same effect of the archers in Rhuidean that you go through to become a wise one or a clan chief, is to weed out the weak. He is effectively weeding out the weak in the entire nation of the Aiel. Now, I don't think that his words is going to have the dramatic effect of what Couladin's brother endured, tearing out and eating his own eyes. But they run in a craze, like actually running away from Adar, like into the desert. Like, this isn't fucking true. We never lived the way of the leaf. Some of them probably commit suicide. Like some of them just fall on their spears and say like, this is not for me. But what is left,
this is not what I signed up for,
is people that can handle the shit. That he's now taken a true lot of people that's thinned out and cleaned out and de-weeded, if you want to call it that. And he has a powerful army with him after that. Yeah. Even the every clan chief sitting there knowing this and saying, yep, he's got it. Like he's the Karakar. Done.
Yeah.
What I want to know, Savannah, is a wise one. No?
Yes.
How did she not, in this plot, inform Couladin of, hey, when you go to Rhuidean, by the way, you're going to say you go to Rhuidean, you might want to know what happens in there. Or is she still and I don't want to say this of a Shido dog that there's honor involved, but does she have the honor not to break that oath that she didn't explain to him? Or maybe if he gets the truth, he might eat his own eyeballs as well and run away, and they're plain as fuck anyway.
I mean, that's certainly a factor, right? Like Couladin would never buy that. Look at his brother.
His brother ate his own
eyes out. Yeah, but he certainly would reject that. He would, I think you can safely assume, would not that would not sit well with him. It could also just be a blind spot on her part, right? She might not have thought that anyone would ever speak about what happens in there.
Yeah.
It's not done. Nobody ever speaks about it. So maybe she thought they could get away with it because, you know, he's the maybe they come up with another story of like what he went through in there.
Yeah. I mean, she is standing there like, I got my dragons. I saw a victory. We're gonna go over the wall and get some gold. Woo! Nice to be a shadow dog.
That's all it would take.
Fucking dog.
No, I think she never thought that it would be brought up. Like no one was ever going to talk. That wasn't going to be an issue, and that with his tattoos, that they had to choose, that the Aiel would have to choose between some wetlander and a and an Aielman with tattoos, they were going to go
Yes.
with the Aielman. Like she just put all her eggs in one basket and
Assumed too much.
Assumed too
the
much.
only thing that I can sort of gather out of this is the fact that they are Shido, that they didn't think their plan through. They just they inferior Aiel.
But like I,
mean,
said
it's hard
many
to argue.
times, this is the downfall of all the antagonists
The
in
bad
this
guys.
series, is that they all are, they all think so much of themselves. Their arrogance is always their downfall. They think everyone else is stupider, and therefore they will win, and they don't.
It's true. Well, I sort of touched on the things I wanted to as I went past them. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to add there.
I got a couple of stuff.
Cool.
After the first maiden takes the spear and a buckler, and all the other maidens rush to Rand's defense, I have it in my mind that they made a turtle shell of bucklers around Rand, like the Legion of Romans used to do with their
You're going to need a lot of bucklers to make a turtle
You need
shell.
a lot of bucklers. They're a bit small.
Because Rand was kind of like encircled by them, like how the bodyguards would cover a president with the guns out, like get to the ground. And Rand sitting there like, nah, I need. And I thought Rand channeled the bubble. I was under the impression that the bubble that took the rain of him, that he channeled it. Like he channeled and brought the rain. He felt the rain and the water in the earth, and he's like, I'm going to bring this up. And it came down as rain and lightning. But I wasn't. No, Lanfear's, I kind of at that moment like, oh, fuck's sakes. My plan's gone to shit.
The bubble specifically created between Rand and Matt and the maidens and Ruach and everything. So, and it actively pushes them away as it expands. So I don't think Rand would have done that.
Do you think everyone could hear in the bubble, or they were sealed off in there?
No, they were sealed off.
No.
It's not like Lanfear to put her whole thing on display. She's there to talk to Rand and no one else. So everyone else, fuck off.
No, it's also in my chapter, at the end of my chapter, when it all ends, everybody's like, when he comes back, they're all like, what the fuck? What the fuck? They have no idea what happened. Yeah. So they had no idea. It was a soundproof
What else, Phil?
No, I think that is really the sum of it.
All right. Well, then let's get to your chapter, Jody. The final chapter for the Shadow Rising.
O's made me wait, eh?
Okay, time to perk up.
All right.
Chapter 58 is called The Traps of Ruidian. Joe, take it away.
Thank you kindly, sir. So we are on the other side of that gateway, and we have the same steps that we saw at the end of the Eye of the World when Rand fought there. So that was... and the whole mechanism now is becoming super clear to me that this is Telan Riod, that they use Telan Riod to travel, just like it's a way of channeling inside, like Perrin uses to leap far distances. He uses Telan Riod, but they are physically entering Telan Riod and then using it to jump far distances. In this case, first steps and then skimming. And as soon as he gets in, he sees these steps leading up. He's like, "Oh, I've been here. I've seen this before. This is familiar." And we all go, "Ah, of course, yes." And he starts to think about where he is. Yeah, I'm sure. Where he is and like what's under these stairs. Like, if I fall, do I ever stop falling? And then everything starts shimmering. And that was my key. Was like, yes, because his mind is creating these things. So that's got to be Telan Riod now. So that's super clear to me at this point. So the step starts shimmering and losing, substance. So he decides, no, focus. And when he focuses, they become solid again. And they even get like fine details around the steps, like intricate carvings and all kinds of things. So yeah, then he keeps leaping and he starts running up to where he wants to get to. And in the distance, he sees Asmodean, who's on a little disc skimming along with one of his hands on his hips. He's like a hand on a hip and like he's stroking his goatee like an evil man plotting something. And he's like, oh fuck, that looks much easier than this leaping from step to step bullshit, because I'm already out of breath. His side is hurting from his wound, and like the steps are starting to adjust to his strides as well. They're getting further and further apart as he's leaping. So he's like, no, this is bullshit. I'm just going to copy that guy and do what he's doing. So he does. All right. But it also, makes me wonder Why did Asmodean skim to Ruidian? Why didn't he just travel? Capital T, like open a gateway and just step out. Look, on the other side.
Oh, what did we say in callbacks recently? Like for traveling and skimming, for the one, you need to know the destination. For other one, you need to know your point of origin. I think traveling, you need to know your point of origin. For skimming, you need to know your destination.
He's never been inside the waste or wherever he left from. He doesn't know.
Asmodean has never been to, what do you call that valley outside Rudian? They met Chandar. No, he hasn't. They met after that.
In Teleron Riad he has.
In Teleron Riad he has, because Egwene saw him there. He was snooping around there. He's been there before. He knows his destination. What he doesn't know is his origin. He's never been in
Nynaeve
Golden Bowl. Yeah, or Nynaeve, sorry.
Was it
man in the blue coat standing outside the misty wall of Ruidian?
So anyway, the point, the whole misty wall thing is that you can't enter inside Ruidian because it's shielded in some way. So that's why they stop outside, which I'll get to in a second. But my question was just like, why not travel? Was it a plot line to give time to Rand to catch up?
I'm trying to think. What was the rule? Was it like for traveling, you need to know your current location? Well,
I think so. I think that was it. Because then that would explain this. Because he doesn't know where he is. He's in the waste. He's in the Golden Bowl. He doesn't know where he's starting. So he has to skim there. Okay. Well, that will make sense. There we go. All right. Thank you for clearing it. So anyway, Rand copies him. They're skimming after each other. And then he notices again those black threads coming out of Asmodean. The Dark One protecting him, and Rand thinks, I just like in Rand's mind, I'm just paraphrasing here, but he's thinking, I'm totally going to cut those the second I get the chance. It's worked threads. So well in the past. At this point as well, Rand sees his face, and he sees the face of Natail, the Gleeman, and he's like, oh, that's who he is, you know. He had his money totally on Kadere, who had those dead eyes. So he was wrong about that. He knew it was one of them, but he was just slightly off, although at this point, it doesn't matter. At this point as well, Asmodean sees Rand and accelerates and then chucks some fire. I was making my notes and I was like, oh, he chucks some fire. And then I read the next line and it's like the fire sheet was 1 mile high and 1 mile wide. So I was like, okay, maybe not some fire, but all of the fire.
All of the fire.
You know what I'm thinking. So Rand channels something. He doesn't know. He's just instinctive again. And the wall of fire shatters. But there's another one behind it, and another one, and another one, like walls and walls of fire coming at him. Rand also breaks through all of those and throws back his own firestorm. It's not a wall. It's literally just an entire storm of fire, which just flows around Asmodean's personal shield. I was like, he's also got one of those. Clever thinking. But Rand is now super pissed. So suddenly Asmodean stops and opens a gateway and steps through. And Rand wants to go through there as well. It's like, I've got to catch him. And as he thinks about that, the platform he's on stops dead and flings him forward. And he flies through the hole head first and feels a little tug on his heel of his boot as he goes through, and that is the gateway closing and slicing off the heel of his boot. And I remember that scene from the first time that I read the books. That's something that has always stuck with me, because I thought, oh shit, when those gates close, they're going to chop you in half, which we do find out later becomes death gates, which are an awesome weapon to use. So yeah, this is our first little taste of don't get caught in a closing gate. I suppose that's true for any kind of gate, to varying degrees of injury.
It's never your intention. You're always trying to avoid being caught in the gate.
Having gates close on you. Yes.
It's how gates work. It's the mechanics of a gate.
So anyway, he tumbles out the other side. It's very unceremonious as he comes tumbling through head over heels, smashing around in the power, in all the dust floating up around him. But he's still raging with power, and he rolls and tucks and rolls, and he's ready to fight again. And they are 50 steps outside Ruidian. They're just outside that wall of fog. And later on as well, Lanfear mentions that there was some sort of shield here, so they can't open a gate inside Ruidian. I think is the the point here is why they stopped outside. So running through the mist, Asmodean's already inside, so he runs after him. He runs in through the mist, and for some reason, instinctively, throws himself to the floor. And when he looks up, there are some traps laid with air. Look like fine blades hanging horizontally, one at hip level, one at chest level, and one at neck level, or whatever. Like 3 of them, they would have sliced him in 3 pieces had he run at them full speed. It's a lot of luck going on. Yeah, I'm just wondering if this is like Lou's Theron, like manifesting himself more and more, like being able to break through those firewalls that are being thrown at him, instinctively smashing them, and
probably also instinct and just like gut feel. Like if you're running from an obscured area into an area where someone you are pursuing is standing and they've got clear line of sight, like maybe he was expecting an attack and not a trap.
Yes, okay, that part. But I mean, the channeling to break through those firewalls. There's a whole battle as they go along as well. Everything is instinctive for Rand, and he just manages to deflect and nullify any attack thrown at him. It has to be Lou's Theron, like not fully speaking to him at this point yet, but
I think being able to channel weaves instinctively is a talent. The girls do it. All Rand's channeling. He's like by instinct, right? Like everything he's ever done is sort of like, oh, I guess I could do this too.
Like everything all the time.
I'm riding the Taveran wave.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
I don't think
I can understand some of that. Yet. It's got to be Lou's.
You don't think
been
it's
in there
the
whole time.
He's been not in there, but he's not speaking to him yet. He's not
not yet.
He isn't.
No.
It is his instinct as the Dragon Reborn. He must have that instinct. He's got that natural ability, and he's Taveran. That in itself, and it's a book about magic. Come on, just magic flow.
Yes,
got to learn somehow.
Yeah.
All right. Suspend belief.
There's a precedent, like Nynaeve healing and stuff, like a lot of the, rediscovering gateways and like, sometimes someone sees something and they're like, oh, I can copy that, and they do it. But a lot of times out of desperation, they just go on instinct and it seems to work. So as unsatisfying as that is, Joe,
no.
it's something we're going to have to live with.
No, look, I am 100% on board that some of it is instinct and that he has a talent for it, but like every single time he manages to do it, he's got to be getting help.
Until he gets a teacher.
Anyway, we'll leave that behind us for another time. He's tucked and rolled. He is not getting sliced in 3 pieces, and he comes out on the other side of the mist, ready to channel, ready to fight, and he's pulling on more of Saidin, and he mentions here as well, like it's much harder. There's like a resistance inside.
I don't want to be the pedant of us today, yeah, but there was 3 lines. Wouldn't he technically be sliced into 4 pieces then?
That's what I was thinking as I said those words. But I thought, I am not a pedant. I was thinking about my fantasy maths.
Well, Willie, if his individual legs got cut off, there'd be an extra pieces.
5 pieces.
God. Please stop.
What about his arms and his hands?
No, that would be on the
side of his
torso,
fingers.
But it'd be like blip, 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 blip.
So anyway, he pulls on that side in, which is more difficult to draw on. He notices inside this shield, inside this fog, and he rains down some lightning in front of Asmodean, because we do realize he does say at this point he's not trying to kill the guy. He needs him. Although that is not what Asmodean is trying to do. Asmodean is not pulling any punches. He is running for his fucking life, and he's going to kill Rand with any opportunity he gets. So there's like he raining down some lightning and smashing some ancient pillars that have been there for 3,000 years into dust. And I was like, dude, be careful. But
I was bummed about that.
Yeah, look, it only gets worse, bro. It just gets worse and worse. So Asmodean retaliates by turning the air around Rand into fire, as you do, standard weave. Rand undoes that. I wrote, thanks, Luz, but now I'm not allowed to say things like that anymore. But yeah, like all of this stuff is happening. The chase continues. There's back and forth. I'm not going into all the details of all the attacks that happen, but there's various different types of attacks. There's fire, there's lightning, there's flying stones, there's buildings crumbling around them. All hell is breaking loose. So while Rand is fighting to stop Asmodean is fighting to kill. And Rand realizes, shit, I'm going to pick up my game here, step it up a bit. Asmodean spots the access keys to the Cooden Call. We're not allowed to say Choden Call on this channel.
No.
And grabs onto it with an exalted, ha-ha, eureka! This is what I'm afterwards. But at that same moment, like a split second later, Rand's hand also closes around it because he's caught up now. And they're both holding on to this little moment where they look at each other in the eyes like, you son of a bitch. And they start both reaching through and drawing power from one of the two most powerful Sa'angreal ever created. And Rand is just blown away by the amount of power that he's feeling here. And he remembers like, oh, this is probably through the one I saw. Well, not probably. It's definitely through that statue they were digging up outside Kyrian that one time when I was cruising by. And he thinks to himself, with this much power, he could have healed that dead child in the Stone of Tyr. Like one of those memories that, again, like they carry this baggage with them the whole book. All of these characters, they always have these regrets and they never forget the names of the people that they got killed and all of that stuff. Hashtag remember the stone. So this is only half of the power though. Rand is just blown away, but Asmodean is drawing the other half. So he's only at 50% power. So that also was a wake-up call to me that wow, this, you can't imagine the amount of power that is being drawn now. Whatever you're imagining, it's half. So they're kind of having two battles at the same time as well, because they're having this physical battle rolling around in the dirt, fighting over the key. But they're also having this metaphysical power battle where they are throwing hammer fists of air that could destroy mountains. And they do destroy mountains around them. Trying to kill each other with the one power as well. Rand is exhausted because, as the wise ones mentioned before, you need to get some sleep, bro. And he is feeling it now because this battle is going on and he's drawing and drawing and drawing more power. And he is feeling himself getting weak. Like he's not going to be able to keep this up for much longer. But he does notice as well that Asmodean is also sweating and panting. So while they're both tired, Rand is definitely the most tired. So he needs to start making a plan. He needs to make his move soon or he's going to die. So they're tumbling around, fighting on the ground. And at one moment, they're pressed together and Rand feels through the body pressing against him that little stone Ungreal, that little fat man Ungreal is still tucked in his waistband. And, he thinks to himself, well, any little bit can help. I suppose in that little man next to this Ungreal is nothing, but anything that I can get, any little extra bit. So Asmodean at this point feels he is about to win, and Rand can see it on his face. Like he's kind of smiling, like, oh, I've got you now. You can feel Rand's getting weaker and losing his grip. But Rand remembers his training, and he uses the void to prepare himself for his final attack. And he takes that calmness in, and Asmodean kind of looks at him weird because there's no longer like grunting and growling. His face becomes complete serenity. And that's usually a bad sign when you see that on your enemy's face. So he calms himself and he focuses on those black wires that I told you he was going to cut right at the beginning. Out comes the old, he draws through that little extra power through that little fat stone Ungreal man. Out comes the good old flaming sword and he cuts the wires. It's big, I told you so. Asmodean screams in horror and all of that stuff, and they both collapse backwards. Rand manages to twist out of there, and he holds onto the access key, but loses his connection with Saidin at this point because they are both just kaput, exhausted. So looking around, he sees that the crystal columns are still standing. He's happy for that because he feels like if he had destroyed those, he would have destroyed the history of the Aiel. So when the wise ones are worried that he doesn't care about them, he does. He does have some care for them. He's not completely heartless. But everything else is proper fucked. I mean, that city is done.
Hey, the red door frame's still standing up.
Nothing's going to get that red door frame, man. Doesn't matter. That red door frame, that twisted door frame is still there. Nudge, nudge. There's also a list of other Ungreal and Ungreal that they mentioned there that I'm not going to go through because I did not know any of them.
That same black spear balanced on its point again. Like a splinter in my mind.
Yeah, but at the end, it's balanced on the top of a pile of rubble. So it has moved somewhere along the line. It's been moved around, and it's now on top of the rubble, still balancing unnaturally. That one. And there's also a statue of a crystal woman, nude, of course, with a baby suckling at her breast. Don't know what that one is. If any one of the readers knows, let us know. But anyway, the city is gone. The buildings are collapsed. A Vendosora is a flaming flame. What do you call a bonfire? That's it.
Torch.
A flaming torch. It's a bonfire. That 3,000-year-old tree is on fire.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. That cut me deep. That was the worst of it. Like, I was like, no, man, shame.
It's only the leaves that's burning.
Yeah, it's only the leaves. It'll be fine. I also noticed by the end of this chapter, Rand and nobody else has bothered to put it out. Like, come on, man. Do something about it. Now, fuck it. Let it burn. There's also a massive rift in the ground that has split the entire city apart. It's like 50 paces wide. There's a new canyon running through the middle of the city. And the dome of fog, the foam, is dissipating. So everything that protected the city and everything that was inside is now gone, thanks to this little battle that these two guys have had.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he notices that the mountains around the city are lower, and that one of the mountains is completely gone. It was there a few moments ago, gone again. Second little breaking of the world that happened here. It's just what the men do. The male channelers. Is they break shit.
No,
Even
that's what the power of that Sangreal does at the 50% level.
Carl's going to get you.
Yeah. Well, look what they do with it in book 9. I mean, it's not always just there. It's how you use it and who's using it. Yeah, it's not. But the male channelers, it's what they do. That's just destruction.
It was made for sealing the Dark One in the bore.
Yeah. And that made me think again while I was reading this, like, what happens, like, what would have happened if they had actually used that plan, the female Aes Sedai's plan? Would it have worked? I wonder. I suppose we'll never know.
Don't know.
And what was
we
the
wouldn't
plan
be reading
exactly?
these books, that's for sure.
No, for sure, this podcast wouldn't exist.
No.
And then they seal the bore and everyone lived happily ever after. The end. Okay. Boring books. Asmodean looks at Rand, and he looks at the key, and he kind of like makes a half move for it, but Rand just gives him that whole "don't you fucking dare" look. And he thinks to himself, like, I'm going to fight this guy. I won't be able to channel a shred of the power, but like Nynaeve, I have got a mean right hook, and he's got his fists clenched. He thinks to himself, like, I learned to fight when I was a kid, dude. Before I knew about the one power. I will punch you in the face.
And from the Aiel.
Yes. But I mean, his thought at that time was like he learned to fight as a child, as a young boy.
Right.
So he's got years of experience not using the power. So, of course, Lanfear appears at this point. Of course she does. With some snarky comment about men fighting and groveling on the ground, blah, blah, blah. Shut up.
She's not wrong.
No,
she's not wrong.
Yeah, but you don't have to bring it up, man. It's too soon.
Low blow.
Low blow, man. And she realizes, she sees the access key, and she's like, that's what he was after. And that is what I'm after too. So she realizes, holy shit, if this one's here, where's the female one? And the entire time from now on until the end of the chapter, she's kind of like half talking to them and half looking around, looking for this other access key. But of course, the city is in ruins. Like she's never going to find it.
No.
So she's not making any active, effort to go and look for it. But anyway, she does mention that she goes, I wondered where those were because there is half of the female access key in Tanchico. Well, she doesn't say Tanchico, but she says she's seen it. So that's obviously the one that we saw in Tanchico. So we know that she has also been there, I suppose, in Tel Anriod is the way that they've moved around a lot. Perhaps. She gives Rand the old, how you and I together can displace the Dark One, and that whole routine again. Join the dark side of the Force.
That whole sales pitch.
That old sales pitch, yeah, exactly. Together, blah, 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 blah. We can rule the world. Asmodean's now just begging her to help him, begging for help. And Rand tells her, like, no, you can't help him now because I've cut him off from the Dark One. And she's shocked because she's like, shit, I didn't know that was even possible, that you could cut these male Forsaken off. And Rand's like, yeah, it was pretty easy. I just used a fiery sword and chopped them. So
Yeah, the fiery sword you keep making fun of me for using,
yes.
that's the one.
I can do things that no Forsaken has ever dreamt of with that fiery sword. Just the simplest of things. Yeah, I think the Forsaken are just overthinking things,
Too grandiose.
Yeah. So he also tells her of his plan to use Asmodean to teach him how to channel. She's like, good plan. Great minds think alike. Asmodean doesn't really have a choice at this point. It's basically to stay with Rand or let the other Forsaken kill him, because he's like telling Lanfear, like, you can, like, Rand's like, how are they to know that he didn't cut himself off to switch sides? And he's like, well, Lanfear will tell them the truth. And Lanfear's like, actually, no, I think I'm going to tell them that you switched sides. And I've read the next book. She totally does. Like, the first thing she does when she meets them. Guess what Asmodean did? So yeah, she doesn't make idle threats. So that's his choice. Like, if soon as the Forsaken find out, the other Forsaken, that he's switched sides, so to speak, they're going to come and kill him, which of course we know they do eventually anyway, or to hang out with Rand and hope he wins, hope the light wins, basically. He's got, for a dark friend, for a Forsaken, that's a pretty shitty deal. Again, he's just begging and begging and begging Lanfear for her help. But instead, she shields him and allows him to only channel just a trickle, so that he has enough of the one power to teach Rand the weaves that he needs to teach him, but not enough to be a threat. Asmodean begs for mercy at this point again. A lot of begging going on from Asmodean right now. And that's what you mentioned earlier. Like, it was always going to be Asmodean who's going to be out of all the male Forsaken, because all the others are not little whiny bitches like him. No. And here he's proving it. So he calls her Mirren at this point, like begging her, using her original name, and that pisses her off like no man's business. And she almost kills him. She picks him up with the one power and starts crushing him. And the way it's described in the books is you can see his clothes pressing against his body and the skin on his face distorting. And she's literally crushing him with all the air around his body. But Rand manages to draw enough of the one power through that little stone Ta'angreal that he's got, to just throw a little bit of balefire between them. I like how these new channelers just, that's their default attack, is now just balefire. Nobody's throwing fireballs anymore. That's so last year. So yeah, that kind of like severs what she's doing, her weaves between her and Asmodean, and they both fall to the ground. And when Asmodean falls to the ground and the weave dissipates, like, blood starts running out of his ears and his mouth and his nose. Like, she was literally crushing him alive. And
look, bleeding from the ears is never a good thing. It's like it when someone
bleeding
bleeds
in general
from
to
the
be
ears,
avoided.
they proper fucked. It's you see bleeding from the ears, you go like, damn.
That's no good, my man. That's no good.
So she pretty much
the eyes also no bueno.
Bleeding from the mouth, fine. The nose, that happens. But the ears and eyes, no. We're going to skip that. I don't think it was specific mention that he was bleeding from his eyes at this moment, but I think the ears was enough.
I was more speaking generally.
Generally, in general terms, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So he was nearly dead, and the rage on her face disappears instantaneously once Rand does that. And he makes note of that, like, this chick is crazy, man. And she loves me. She loves me. So it's just, whoa. So he's like, no, I need Asmodean alive. And she's like, no, you're right. That's cool. That smile comes back. That serenity comes back instantaneously. And she makes a mention that she says, you still carry my mark. Should I make it permanent? And we've spoken about this mark thing before. So it wasn't just her healing him after the battle in Felmay. Like, she physically marked him. And apparently
she bit
it dissipates after time.
Wasn't she referring to the bite mark in his neck?
He still got the bruise in his neck.
I thought it was referring to that.
No, that's her
but
saying,
she's going to permanently bite him.
I've bitten you, bitch. I'll bite you again.
I thought it was the mark she left on his forehead in Tanchico.
No. This is the bite mark. He referenced that he still got remnants of the mark, and that's why he stopped sleeping, because he didn't want her in his dreams anymore.
But what does she mean by making it permanent?
Everywhere.
No, she's just crazy. I'm gonna permanently bite a chunk out of your neck. All right.
Maybe.
We'll
God,
just
who
go with
knows?
that.
Hey man, she might even bite the ear off. It's Lanfear we're talking about.
I'll bite your legs off. Maybe that. All right. So, with a warning that old Ravin and Samael and Demandred, or Demandred, however you pronounce it, will redouble the efforts to kill him once they learn that he has this access key. She leaves. She's like, all right, fine. Jigger, I'm out of here. I'm going to leave that key because I can't find it. There's also some jabs at him about Avienda, like who you're trying to protect, that farm girl of yours, and all of those things. Because Rand is at this point as well. Another sign of his character is like, did you hurt them? That's the only question he has. Like, when I left you behind there with the Aiel, did you hurt any of my friends? And she's like, no, I didn't hurt anybody. Your precious Aiel and your I don't know what she refers to Avienda as, not kind. But anyway, she
surely.
didn't hurt them, and she left them all there. So he's like, all right, that's cool. I appreciate that.
Not the same for his Sandre.
No, yeah, I'm getting to that. So also before she leaves, she muses again about how these Aiel have changed and how you could have slapped Daishane in the face and they would have just been like, what did I do wrong? Like she's very surprised at how quickly. But she does say, how much they've changed, but she also tells Rand, like, you better learn quickly and well. Like, as your teacher, learn because I'm coming back for you and we are going to rule the world together. Again, a little bit of the spiel the sales pitch that she gives. After she leaves, Rand pokes around the rubble and he finds the female access key. It was right there, apparently, all along.
It's right there,
yeah. The one that she had been trying to find. And then looking past all of that destruction, him and Asmodean are just standing there now, and he looks past all of that destruction and he notices that the fog is now almost completely gone, and that rift that had opened had broken open that big reservoir of that ocean of water that he had felt before that was underneath. And it's running out into the valley below. I don't know if that valley was there before, but it seems like now that the whole city is kind of twisted. It's kind of moved on it's not as level as it once was. It's now running down into a valley and creating a lake that is almost like 3 miles wide. And he said, like, probably once it's filled up, it's going to reach right to the city. And there is a moment there where he's like, people will come and live here. There's a moment of optimism. Like the waste will actually have a real city. People will now be able to come here and maybe they'll fix the buildings that are fucked up so horribly. And there will be water for the first time where people are fighting over little puddles. And so, there's a future here for the Aiel, which is, as we know from the prophecy, is not the case. But who knows what might happen in a few thousand years. Other people, non-Aiel, might come and live there. So we'll see. And also that people will come and tend to Avendasora, that burning tree that I'm just going to leave there, even though there's water everywhere. And I do apparently have enough power to enough strength left to channel, because he channeled that balefire. And then he channels right now another gateway to leave, to go back to the waste. Could have channeled some of the water on the tree, man. But no. So they jump back in, and he creates one platform for both of them to ride on, him and old Asmo. And while they're busy skimming back, they're deciding, like, all right, we've got to make up a story for you. You're going to be coming back with me. And we can't tell them that you're one of the Forsaken. That's just a no-no. And he tells him, well, I used to be called, Jor-El, what, I don't know, that's Superman's dad. Joar, that's it. Something, 3 names, because he was very important.
Nassassin.
Something along those lines. So anyway, they said, well, the other Forsaken are going to know that name, so we can't use that either. So we're just going to stick with the old Gleeman routine. You'll be Natail, and your new official title is Gleeman to the Dragon Reborn. Like, people will buy that. All right, some people. So arriving back in Al-Khair-Dal, they see the rain has stopped. Well, obviously, I think it stopped after he left, and that a quarter of the Aiel have left. So I read this extra thoroughly to make sure that it wasn't only a quarter left and 3/4 had left, but no, he says like 1/4 of them had left, thereabouts. He hears that some of them just threw down their spears and left. They just went, fuck this shit. Willie, probably some of them threw themselves on their spears, and others left and become the Brotherless, I think they're called,
Something like that.
I think it's a whole bunch of them that leave and they just form a whole new society.
Yeah.
Because of this.
I think they basically act like none of this happened. Like, just in complete denial.
Yeah, just put their fingers in their ears. La 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 la. I wasn't there. Didn't see anything. So he's back on the. He just, of course, appears out of a doorway back on this ledge, in the midst of our group of buddies, old Lan and Moraine and Egwene and the wise ones and the clan chiefs and all of those guys, on that ledge. And the first thing he does is tell them, "Hey, go find Isandre. Go tell them to stop beating her. She's not as bad, or not as big a
She
thief."
didn't steal all those things.
Yes,
Just some of
because
them.
what Billy mentioned earlier, and I did gloss over then right afterwards, is that Lanfear had planted some stolen stuff in Isandre's chest. Some stuff she had actually stolen herself, and that to kind of punish her and let the Aiel punish her. So Loran's like, "No, go save her," but it was actually Lanfear that set her up. And everybody's like, "How the fuck did you know that was happening? And where were you? And what's going on? Who's this guy? And what's going on?" They completely, and Rand just ignores them all. He doesn't answer any questions whatsoever. The Shido left, importantly, and to everyone's relief. But some of the other clans as well. Not all of the clans, but every single one of the Shido, they're gone. Some of the other clans, people left their clans and went to join the Shido, others the brothers, and all of that kind of stuff. None of the Taradard left, although Ruach says it as a statement of fact, not as with any pride or bragging. But the people that did leave. Oh, sorry, they did not leave with the Shido. I think that's made clear. It's like nobody, when the Shido left, they were left on their own. The people that other left, they just left by themselves because they have standards. No one's going to go with the Shido. But at that point, everyone who remains everyone who remains recognizes Rand as the Kar Arkan, and he walks away. And that's basically how the book ends. Now, I did leave out some stuff, which I'm sure we'll jump into right now. But yeah, I like how he just comes back after all of that shit's happened, and everybody, Moraine, who used to be so terrifying and control, and everyone's asking questions, and he's just like, fuck you guys, and walks away. I'm in charge.
Yeah. Quite irresponsible to return to that ledge when people could be standing there.
Yes. We just learned that they cut people in half. So yeah. But he knew what he was doing. Anything else there?
I don't have a lot extra to add to that, Joe. Like the one thing that sort of did immediately jump out at me is when Rand asks Lanfear, "What did you do with everyone there? I can still use them," and it even says that it pained him to say it. It was like, it is quite an indication of how Rand's thinking is changing a little bit. I think half of it was to mask to Lanfear what their importance is, that he doesn't want to make it sound like he's too personally invested, because who knows how Lanfear is going to react to him having a personal relationship with anyone that's female. But half of it is him thinking that, these people are going to have to be employed. I mean, Egwene and Moraine just said to him in the previous chapter, "We fight for you, like we are also doing things on your behalf." And he is definitely starting to think in that sort of more like calculated chess playing kind of way. Like, how can I mean, he's using the Aiel as a blunt force weapon. Yeah, exactly. So he's definitely elevating his thinking. Like, I mean, how far has he come from the beginning of The Dragon Reborn, which is just the previous book, where he just ran from the mountains, to Tyr by himself, like a raving lunatic, to now like planning to use this entire nation as a weapon, despite it probably being their demise. Like, that's a huge leap.
Indeed.
I am very pleased that the Chora tree is on fire.
I was not expecting that.
I am
Interesting.
Of the opinion that no, hear me out.
Yes.
Rand had seen the past. He lived the past through the eyes of his ancestors. He had seen what the Chora tree was and how it tied in with that age. It was people under sedation from the tree being coaxed into peace while the whole world was peaceful. It was like, there isn't place for such a tree in this age. That chaos is out there, and you need chaos to fight chaos. You don't have tinkers sleeping under trees that's going to win this battle. So enough of that nonsense. They're never going to go back to that ever. It's like the tree is
This is an interesting opinion
history.
coming from a game ranger and someone
Hey.
actively invested
Burn
in
the
the
trees.
prevention of extinction.
One thing that I've learned that some species evolve and they evolve into a bottleneck of evolution, which they are not supposed to survive. There are current species that are alive currently today that conservation is spending massive amount of money to try and preserve, but their failure as a species isn't man-made. Their failure as a species is what happened to them, and they just bottlenecked in evolution. That tree bottlenecked when they drilled that fucking hole in the ball. Its purpose was done. It's the first thing that burned. The chora trees burned on day 0. The chora tree started burning, and this was kind
Well,
of
some of them.
most of them. Like they just
In that one
Oof,
street.
All the
fire,
Aiel with
it
all
was
their
like-
wagons, they had cuttings of the tree.
all of this piece is
That's-
over now.
They
We
had
are in
thousands of
chaos.
cuttings of the trees in the wagons that the Aiels took with them. They had the means with which to have them.
They would randomly pop into fire probably as well. It's just like there's all these
Just spontaneous combustion.
bubbles
No,
of
go now.
evil was going around.
But I understand what you mean about the place of the tree in a world that's already been touched by the Dark One.
Yeah, it's. I think that there's a lot of symbolism in that, and Rand purposefully seeing it and not doing anything about it. Like it's. I bring change. This is very symbolic of the change. Like the whole incident. Like he's feeling bad about the city being destroyed. Like yes, it could be a place, and this could be a home for someone, but he doesn't do anything about it. Like people can come and rebuild it, but that tree, fuck that tree. We're done sleeping under trees. This is who we are now. We are killers. We are the last of the Aiel. We have weeded the ones that cannot handle this truth out. Like it's just for me. That's what I really read into that whole battle scene there. Like he wasn't fighting Asmodean. He was preparing himself for what is coming and just placing a few things there for him. Like this wasn't a fight. This wasn't a battle. This was just ironing out political differences. This was Dice Daimar between the Forsaken and Rand. Done.
Okay.
I'm not gonna drink that Kool-Aid just yet. I mean, Rand and Asmodean were literally battling for their lives. I mean,
Yes.
if Rand failed, he dies, right? Like that was a fight.
But it wasn't going to happen.
What do you mean it wasn't going to happen?
It would go against every prophecy.
Well, I mean, there's also a dark prophecy.
Yeah, there's a dark prophecy, but we know it doesn't work. There's plot holes in it.
Because
Billy
we are
knows
the
how the
good
story
guys.
ends. That's why. We know Rand's going to win.
Actually, he doesn't. He hasn't read the last book.
Ooh.
So,
that's why Veli's talking
remember
cock
that.
like this.
No,
All right.
like fuck that tree.
I mean,
Its time
so
is over.
Vil, let's follow that line of thinking to its logical conclusion. So Rand assumes that okay, all this stuff is going to happen, and he is going to be in the last battle, and he's going to defeat the Dark One. What happens after that when you are now in a world with no Dark One?
No, Rand.
Is there no place for a Chora tree?
No, the violence is unleashed in men's minds.
But now you've sealed away the Dark One. No touch of the
No.
Dark One on the world anymore. What now?
It's escaped. It's in there. It's out. It's been out for 3,000 years. Like
I agree with Vili on this one.
yeah, it's out. You don't bottle that shit back up again. It's like I tell my kids
do
all the
with
time.
Chora
It's like
trees.
when you squeeze it when you squeeze toothpaste and you squeeze the toothpaste out, it feels good. It's nice. But once the toothpaste is out, you don't get it back in. Just like the words that leave your mouth. Like that's a responsibility.
What have you been smoking? Do you mean smoking chora leaves? Well, look, it doesn't matter because time is cyclical and the trees will come back.
Also, do we know that the Chora tree is destroyed I mean,
Yeah,
trees
probably
burn
just
and
burn.
regenerate all the time. Some trees need fire to live.
I've been trying to get this out for like 10 minutes now. There's a line there. Rand says people will come back and live in the city and they will tend to the Avandasaura tree.
There is
There
that.
we go.
There you go. And he does
Maybe
actually think that. Like,
in the fourth age, when this all is turned over and they all gone back
Yeah.
to being hippies under the tree,
well, that's
then
that's
it restarts.
That's
It
technically
reboots.
the end of this book.
Yeah,
The end of the
that's
series
coming
is the
very
start of
soon,
the
yeah.
fourth age.
So
yeah. Look, because I think the
perhaps.
violence is not going to disappear when the Dark One gets locked up. There'll still be wars. I mean, the Shawnchan are still there. They're not just going to suddenly go, "Oh yeah, you're right, slavery's bad. Let's let all these women
No,
go."
of course not.
So it's going to go like, the wheel of time will turn, and eventually we'll come to the Age of Legends again as humans evolve to that utopia.
Exactly. But that's the point. Like, you will get to the Age of Legends type age
yes.
again. There was violence before the Age of Legends, but they managed to get rid of it where people were safe and everything was fine. We joked about it in the episode with the flashbacks about the chora trees drugging all the people. And like we joked about it. And I questioned then.
You know what they could possibly do, which is like the greatest things about plants, is you could store their seeds and grow from the seeds. You don't have to keep cutting.
I always talk about cuttings and saplings and stuff. Like, do we know that it makes seeds?
Hey man, maybe they've forgotten about that. Maybe they just got to get one to flower.
They forgot about seeds, but they remembered about
Hey,
cuttings.
a lot of things was lost in the breaking of the world.
Lots of knowledge.
Maybe the chora tree only flowers and seeds once on a full moon that has gone red in the cyclical calendar. Once in an age. Who knows? I mean, the tree also makes you peaceful when you sleep underneath it. So it is a magic tree.
Oh, my brain.
What else?
There's more.
We just had had a couple notes. I only had I think 1, 2, 3, 4 notes from that chapter, and one of them was just like saying, okay, cool. Here's the thing that Ian Yellen wrote in about like the cords being cutting off Asmodean from the Dark One, and we were saying we would come to this part and see how reliable is that account that Asmodean gives when he says, "All you've done now is make me as vulnerable as you." Because we were sort of saying, okay, cool, well, that explains what happened with all the other chords, but is that really true? Is Asmodean a reliable narrator in that moment? But I believe him. The state that he's in, I don't think he's got any grounds with which to be, sort of duplicitous or lead Rand astray.
No, it's been well and truly beaten.
So I've already told you guys what my favorite moment is with Marin butchering the Trolloc. I had an honorable mention, which was Rand just sort of like keeping quite mellow when Couladin was ranting and raving on the stage. I like that image of Couladin standing up there shouting at everyone and Rand just standing there very quietly and just, speaking in a normal voice, being the cool and collected one. But what were your favorite moments? Let's start with you, Willie.
Oh, Jody's sitting there shaking head. I'm going to read my favorite moment.
All right. I'm going to think of one quick.
When the tree burnt.
No, the tree burning is not a favorite moment. I mean, it's heart-wrenching, but it's symbolic.
I was just kidding.
I did not say how far. You cannot say I did. He couldn't say anything. She was so beautiful. He just wanted to look at her, to see her beautiful, alive with him. Her scent was clean, sweet, with just the slightest hint of herbal soap. He was not sure whether he wanted to laugh or cry, maybe both. He wanted to pull all of her smell into his lungs.
No, Rand really does love Lanfear.
Perrin and Fael reuniting after when he thought he was never going to see her again.
Yeah. It's a sweet one.
Tis.
It's very nice. I mean, that whole Perrin chapter is laced with emotion, right? Like his letter to her in the beginning, Bane and Chiad, just the emotional connection we have to the villagers. It's also such a cool cathartic end to that whole Two Rivers, Trolloc, White Cloak saga that played out in this book.
Good victory.
Yeah. And after that victory with Fael Fail being there with the people that came and saved him in the end, and then Perrin like having already decided that either he was going to die in battle or the White Cloaks were going to hang him. There's just no way that he's going to end up with Fail, and there she is right in front of him.
No, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Loved it. It is a clean, big battle with a clean ending, with no negotiations with Forsaken and
Polished
laying
turds.
cards on tables and
How about you, Joe?
Well, you basically touched on it there as well. Of course, this chapter. This is the one, and and the arrival of the men from Devon, right? The reinforcements when everything looks so bleak, and that it looks like that letter is going to come true. Reinforcements arrive. The cavalry saves the day. They were not forgotten. Their friends and their neighbors protect each other. It's a very nice, heartwarming, and phew, it got close. We were in between the buildings, man. The kids were in there with knives.
It's a close run thing.
That's down to the wire, and then reinforcements arrive, which is very, very cool. Because that did not happen with Manetheren. They don't have a very good track record with reinforcements arriving. So I'm glad it happened this time.
well, it was the people of Manetheren that rode
Yes.
to aid the people of Manetheren.
They could count on their own.
They can count on their own, even if they were from Watchiel or Devon Ride.
I like those guys. It's those Terran Ferry folk I'm not fond of.
Those Terran Ferry guys, those are the ones you
No,
can't
they
trust.
just rub me the wrong way with their ferry and their tall houses.
Okay, so ordinarily we would end things here, but let's take a couple moments just to talk about the book as a whole. Now, we have in the past had some things to say about the pacing of the books. How did you guys feel about The Shadow Rising? Like, the book as a whole is obviously a great one. I think it's universally loved by fans of the series for a number of reasons, and I mean, they are pretty obvious. But how did you guys feel? Is there anything that stands out or anything you want to touch on?
The whole book is just flat out pace. There's so much that happens in this book. It is one of the top 5 books in the whole series. So, I mean, it is one of the top 5 in the series. And I won't say the best, but very close second, third type. That it is a great one. Like, even with the spelling mistake that's in my copy.
Yeah.
What's the mail called?
Sam Mace?
Sam Mace.
Sam Ace.
Sam Mace. The fuck is Sam Mace?
Yeah.
I know I mispronounce stuff, but man.
I mean, you joke, but it is almost easier to point out the things that you didn't like than to list all the things you do like, because it is generally just awesome. I thought that it started a little bit slow, like that whole section. I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago now, right? Like we started this last year when they're in Tyr and Rand is just reading and the girls are sort of like trying to get Elaine close to him and they're interrogating the Black Archer sisters and everything is sort of like, just kind of stagnated in Tyr.
But there was a Trolloc attack. There was everything.
But there was,
there was action all the way through.
It's not that long that they're there.
It's and let's do our difficult thing of sort of condensing this into a timeline. How long was it since Rand left the Stone of Tyr, jumped into
like a month.
A gateway, or a portal stone.
Portal stone.
And next minute he's in the Waste. And their traveling in the Waste was from Ruidian to
11 days, was it?
11 days or something? Day 11?
Cold Rocks, something like that.
Cold Rocks Hold,
actually, that
11
rings a bell,
days.
Joe.
And then how many days was it to... So, I mean, 15 days worth of traveling or something, 7 days or something. He didn't sleep for 7 days. So, I mean...
The whole book is like a month.
Yeah. Like, this is a month of time. He's wrecked a city. He's spilled water in the fucking Waste. He made it rain.
He wrecked Tyr, figuratively.
Wrecked Tyr as well. And like, shit's happening real fast. And I have my favorite moment that plays into this, so I'll wait for that.
I think we're all going to have the same favorite moment. Well, I know Moritz has got it, the same as mine. So I'll let you go first. But yeah, out of like, it's difficult to say, is this my favorite book of the series? Because I don't remember any of the other books after this. But of the 4 books that I've read, this is my favorite. Yeah.
Yes, I can agree to that. Yeah. This book, it kind of cheats on the how to get under Moritz's skin and into his heart by just introducing just massive Aiel lore, right? Like, is that what you were alluding to before, Joe? Like,
Of course,
it is just,
of course.
it's just mainlining Aiel culture and history. I mean, we've got even the columns, so you get like the history of them, and then the current day, and then you see them in battle, and they are ferocious, and it's just Aiel, 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 which is a very easy way to make it one of my favorites. But I mean, there's other cool stuff that happens here as well. I mean, the whole Two Rivers saga is cool. It's very, very sort of localized. It's not as grand a scale as what we see with Rand. But it is still extremely engaging. Like we've got history there. We've learned about the characters from the Two Rivers for a long time. Like when they start naming names, like you find yourself recognizing family names or like names that other people or just versions of like you feel like you know that and like you are from Emansfield or the Two Rivers.
Yeah.
So it is very, very effective in its goals. And then I mean we don't talk about it much, but the girls go to a city that is supposedly extremely dangerous in the middle of a civil war. It's just after like the Seanchan had left it in shambles. They are going up against the Black Arger sisters. Is it twice? Or was it the end of the previous book? No, it's the end of the previous book, Dragon Reborn, where they go up against them in Tyr, and then here they go up against them in Tanchico. Face down Margidian, find one of the other seals of the Dark One Sprint. The Dominion bands are found in book 4 again. Like I'm constantly shocked at how early things are happening. Perrin is married. They find the Dominion bands. They've Asmodean, Lanfear, Margidian, all in the mix right now. It is. There's a lot of stuff happening outside of just Aiel lore dumps. And then there is the small, almost insignificant matter of the split in the tower.
Oh yeah, that happened too.
Swan getting stilled and Aes Sedai running away and like Elida becoming Amerlin's seat. Like that is huge. And obviously we know the repercussions because we've read all the other books. But like if you think about all those things I've just listed out there, everything that happens in this book is incredible that it's all crammed into a single book. It is chock full of, if not physical action, just plot progression and information and new culture and just so much good stuff. It's like the one spelling mistake Willie called out is like the one thing that I have that I don't like about it. There was a spelling mistake in his printing, not even in mine. Like, that's the only thing I can point to. Let's then pick our favorite moment from the entire book. Jody, I think I know what you think I'm going to say.
But you're not going to say it?
I don't think that I'm going to say that. No. So why don't you go first and see if you can completely deflate me?
No, you've deflated me already. I'm going with, out of everything that's so awesome. When you recapped it now, I was like, shit, no, I forgot about that. But I'm going to have to still go with the glass columns and the history of the Aiel. That whole story going back and back and back. And finding all that shit out. It is so brilliantly written and so engaging, and I just love it. I love every part of it. But then you brought up the whole, like I feel like what you said. Like I feel like an Emansfielder. Like how can I abandon Perrin? Like that's my favorite moment. But I'd say my favorite character from this book is Perrin and his arc. I don't know. Like I'm just adding things now to what we were supposed to be saying. Favorite moment, history of the Aiel, Rand going through those columns, and favorite character, Perrin, in this book.
The glass columns is my honorable mention. That's all right. That is like also a standout section of the book for me, but it's not my favorite one.
Ooh, well, tell us your favorite then. Don't leave us hanging.
I will keep you in suspense. No, Willie, you go first.
No, you go. Tomorrow, you two had this little.
I can't say that.
No, you two have this little the overmind thing going. So
no, mine's different. Mine is okay. I'll go ahead. My favorite, also not a moment because when you're looking at the whole book, it's more of like maybe like an event. Is how Rand is taking charge of his own destiny.
Mm.
How he is putting Moraine in her place, and he is not letting people set his path for him anymore. So we've got in this book, we've got that chapter from, ironically, Moraine's point of view, where Rand does the whole slamming of Kalandor into the ground and deciding he's going to leave. He's sending all these people up into Kyrian on a humanitarian mission. These nobles, you guys are going to pay for this. Yeah, you're going to look after this sick dude who was poisoned. I'm now going to fuck off this way with Aiel. Moraine, you're welcome to come with me if you want, but I am certainly not starting a war with Ilian. Forget about that. Forget your plans. I'm going to do my own thing.
That's
and when
right.
they're in the waste, there's those sections where he says to her at one point, okay, Moraine, if you want to play after that battle, after the Drakkar attack, he's like, okay, cool. Be straight with me. Are you going to try and stop me from what I do? And when she answers him, he goes, when her eyes die away, he goes, not good enough, Moraine, not good enough. I can't handle that. And he just goes off, and he's plotting against the Forsaken when he knows that they are around him. He does all that learning, like that decision to go to Rewillian and go to the Aiel Waste is everything that he's learned from books. Reading himself.
Just shut up there, so I have at least a bit to add into what my favorite fucking part of the story is. You bastard.
Now Billy's regretting letting Lawrence go first.
Oh, Vinny, you foolish fool. You should have taken the opportunity when I gave it to you. But yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
So, Billy, what's your favorite moment?
Not Rand. That anymore.
I think, and to just elaborate on, or to build on what you brought in, is the Dragon Reborn, being the announcement of Rand being the Dragon Reborn, was so devoid of Rand in itself. It was such a sparse Rand book. And all of a sudden, he plays such a strong, like, as you say, he's calculated. It's not emotional. He's doing all of these things without the influence of anyone, but by doing his own research, reading books.
Not just without the influence of anyone, but despite what everyone is telling him to do. Like, everyone's telling him to act, and he's saying, no, I'm busy doing research. I'm busy learning here. I will make a move when I'm ready. Like, people are actively trying to tell him to do other things, and he's doing his own thing, and he's right.
We are talking about the likes of a Blue Aja that's got the full backing of the Emerald Seed. A Forsaken that is wildly in love with him. 3 wives. We know they'll be, but you mean if they're going to be a wife, they're going to have an effect on you from an early level. And there's 3 of them. And despite all of those, 2 best mates, everyone with their opinions, and those 2 best mates, by the way, they're Taviran as well. Rand puts all of that out. All of it.
Yeah.
And he forges this path into the threefold land and becomes the Karakan in one foul blow within a month. Like, this is me, this is my path, this is my month, and you can just pick up your chins off the ground when I move back to that side of the mountains with an army of 100,000 plus behind me. Then we go fuck shit up there. So
yeah.
Done.
Yeah. Now I can invade
Beautiful.
Ilian.
Yes. It's really great. It's a turning point in Rand's story, right? Now it all becomes about Rand and his sanity and, like, just is he making the right decision or not? But at least now he's making his own decisions.
Actually, I'm just fucking with you. That wasn't my favorite moment. My favorite moment's still that fucking tree burning. No, totally. It's my favorite arc.
You just explained Rand's character arc, and I'm like, I agree. That's the most important arc in the story, like, for the what's going to come. But the most poignant and emotional, and one that I connect with, is Perrin's, obviously, because he goes back home and he saves them, and, like, everything that happens to him, and him getting married, and him embracing this lordship of his, and having Waters and Aes Sedai defer to him and stuff, like, they're all growing. It's only really Matt who's kind of, like, left out in this book. Matt really just tags along.
Well, think about this. Think about this. In this book, Matt goes through both stone doorways.
He's
both his encounters with the Finns in this book. He's also lost a lot of his memories and gained a bunch of new ones. So Matt is actually still kind of trying to figure out
Mm.
who he is. So this is actually something that Robert Jordan has done in some of the books that I quite like, where you read it the first time, you're like, how come there's no attention? Like book one, it's all Rand. Okay, cool. It's all set up for it. And then book two, Rand, but then also the girls going to the tower. And in every book, like he's seeding some stuff that he'll come to later. But, Matt only really comes into his own in book three. One of the three, arguably the three protagonists, right? Like Rand, Matt, and Perrin. Matt only really starts developing in book three. And now something else has happened to him. And he's laying the groundwork for something to sort of be expanded on later. And Robert Jordan is not taking like a character per book and like making it just them. Yeah. He's doing the big arc with like the massive character progressions, focus on a handful of characters, and then the side characters having, or like in that book, the side characters having like just little bits of things happening, where later in the book, the focus will go back to them. So it's like this really cool laying the groundwork so that when the next book starts and we start focusing, because we know in the next book, Perrin is not there.
Yeah.
He's not in the book. So Perrin has had a nice arc now and he's become Lord of the Two Rivers. Cool. We can pause on Perrin now and take some time to focus on the plethora of other characters that they are, right? Because there's just not enough pages in a book to focus on all of them.
I'm not complaining that there was no Matt arc. I had more than my fill of arcs in this book and awesome shit happening. Like I was just pointing out that out of the people that were left out, he was. But look, I'm looking forward. I know what happens to him. So.
Hey, I've always seen Jody as a Perrin guy, and I was quite surprised that I got the Battle of the Two Rivers. The final battle,
the exact same thing.
Wow, this is
surprise!
This is an interesting one, and I'm not complaining at all because I absolutely love the Perrin and Fael love story. It's like I said, the love story is getting me quite a bit more than the action coming the second, third read.
It's all these old men now.
Let me recommend a couple of romantic comedies
for you.
I
think that's for yourself.
Okay, any last thoughts before we
I have an honorable
mention
of a character arc. Eggy. Making a really rethinking my opinion of the Sonshan in a few ways. Like, yes.
Easy now, easy. You almost made it out of the episode.
I know,
almost.
But I like her. I like her a lot. And
no, you didn't. So do I.
Look, they can't all be bad. An entire nation. There's got to be some good people in there.
No. By law of averages, there must be some good ones in there. I'll tell you what, Suroth is not one of them.
No.
Sean Chan and a dark friend. I mean, goddamn. That's like Carradine, White Cloak and a dark friend. All right. Well, to all of our listeners, send in your thoughts about The Shadow Rising or any of the other books or anything to do with the Wheel of Time at all to any of our social media accounts. They're all listed in the episode description below. We obviously have a lot of questions that we asked during this episode and many other episodes. We've got a lot of room for theories and pontificating. So please let us know if there's anything you want us to discuss or any thoughts that you've had or any clarifications you would like to offer. In the meantime, we will steel ourselves and prepare for the next episode of Blood and Ashes, where we will be starting The Fires of Heaven, Book 5. I remember loving Book 5. I think in that first half of the series, Book 5 was my favorite book. And I cannot for the life of me remember why.
I know why.
So I'm excited.
I know why.
I'm super excited.
No spoilers, Willie.
What do you mean? No spoilers. We're doing the spoiler cast.
No spoilers on the spoiler cast.
Do my well. Do my well.
Oh, that's not in this book.
6.
Oh, fuck.
Chapter 57, I think.
Spoiler.
Damn.
Lord of Chaos.
I spilled his spoiler.
Damn it.
Spoilerception.
I'll have to wait a whole nother book for that.
Yeah.
You will. It'll only take us a year. In our next episode, when we do start that book, we will cover the first 4 chapters. So that is the prologue called The First Sparks Fall, through to the end of chapter 3 called Pale Shadows. I've got a note here. Everyone go check if you still have a copy of Fires of Heaven.
I bought one.
Do you guys have a copy?
Yes, I've got 3 copies. Now, I've got the paperback, I've got the hardcover, and I've got the Kindle. Yeah, and I've got the audiobook as well.
All right. Well, on that exciting note, I will bid you gentlemen a fond adieu and see everyone next time.
Goodbye, y'all.
Yo.